welcome back to another video. This is going to be a very special one. You already know the drill, you know what we're going to do today. We are going to be solving the JAM Economics paper of 2024 today, and I'm going to keep the video as short as possible because you guys had complained a lot after the JAM simulator test 1 video because it was more than 4 hours. So I'll try my best to keep it as short as possible. Alright, so let us get right into it without wasting any time. Okay, so the first question, which says that which of the following is a non-parametric test, and we have a bunch of tests. Okay, so even before looking at the actual solutions or the actual options, let us try and understand what a non-parametric test is, and let us compare that with a parametric test. Okay, so you should write this down. What is a parametric test? Basically, it is nothing too difficult to understand. A parametric test is just a kind of test that is going to be assuming some parameters. For example, it will either assume a normal distribution. There are certain assumptions. Some parameters have been assumed for that test, such as either a normal distribution, okay, a kind of distribution, or we are already assuming that we have the mean and variance of the distribution that we are going to use in the test. Okay, so that is a parametric test, and a non-parametric test obviously is a test that is not going to require those parameters like the mean and variance, or it does not have to be strictly a normal distribution. Okay, so that is just the idea. So you can just write that down, that a parametric test is a test that assumes either a kind of distribution or it assumes that we have the mean and or variance. Similarly, a non-parametric test is one that is not going to assume the same. Okay, so you can just write that this is not needed. So if we talk about a t-test, f-test and a z-test, okay, you can talk about them one by one as well. When we are talking about a z-test, you already know that it is the mean minus x minus mu upon sigma, right? So obviously we are going to need the variance also and the mean also, so obviously D cannot be the answer. The z-test also assumes a normal distribution, and we are comparing it or converting it rather to a standard normal distribution. And in the f-test also we are assuming a normal distribution, and basically we are comparing the variances. Okay, and for the t-test obviously we use the mean and we assume a normal distribution. But as for the chi-square test, we do not assume a normal distribution, and it uses number of observations or frequencies, and it does not use mean or variance, and which is why it is basically a non-parametric test. Okay, so these are just some basically properties of the test that beforehand you should remember those. You can just look them up, what the properties of these tests are, and you should memorize them. These are not very difficult. There are 2 or 3 more similar properties that you can remember. Okay, let's read the second one, which says that let x and y be two consumption bundles assumed to be non-negative and perfectly divisible. Further, the assumptions of completeness, transitivity, reflexivity, non-satiation, continuity and strict convexity are satisfied. Then which of the following statements is not correct? So a lot of you, what I have seen that you guys have been making the mistake is that you do not read this part. You just read the question, and then you, whatever the first option you see that is correct, you just choose that one and you move on. That is not how you save time. Okay, you have to read the questions very carefully. It is asking for the incorrect option, so let us read it. The first option says that either x is greater or equal than y, or y is preferred over x, or is indifferent to x, or both. This is what is called completeness, which means that you have made a choice. Okay, either x is preferred to y or y to x, or both. We do not care what the choice is, but a choice has to be made. Okay, that is what the completeness assumption says. The second one is if y is preferred over x, if and only if y contains more of at least one good and no less of any other. So I don't even have to explain this. Obviously, if you have two bundles, we know that the consumer is rational and more is better, which is why this is right. I am not going to explain this one. It is called satiation. Then X is not indifferent to itself. This is wrong. This is going to be violating one assumption. Now you have to tell me which one. Okay, I'm not going to answer that. Out of these, the C option is violating an assumption that X is not indifferent to itself, and whatever that assumption is, I'll even tell you the meaning of it. The assumption says that every bundle or every good, X and Y both, have to be at least as good at itself. Okay, so this is the right option because this is violating an assumption. Let us read the last one as well, which says that for X or for Y, it is better. Its better set is strictly convex. So this is obviously just talking about strict convexity. You know that when you have any graph, so when you have, let's say, an indifference curve, so for any combination of two goods, okay, you have Y here, sorry, you have X here and you have Y here. So for any combination of these goods, if we are talking about two extreme cases, okay, we are taking Y and X to be extreme quantities, every time the average, the closer the value of the goods is to average, the higher will be the satisfaction or the utility. Okay, so how do you find that? You just take the average of both of these, okay, and then when you land on the midpoint, you will always see that you can land on a higher indifference curve on this combination on the same line. Okay, so that is something that is very important, which is the strictly convex assumption. So that is also correct. Okay, so moving on, the third question says, consider a production function in the form of y is equal to this and a is not equal to 0.5, where y is output, L is this, and the absolute value of elasticity of substitution. So first of all, 2 points. The first thing is that we are asked the absolute value, right? And secondly, we have to just find the elasticity of substitution. There are multiple ways to solve these types of questions. Okay, I'll show you 2 ways, right? So the first way is the intuitive way, where we do not have to do any calculation whatsoever. We just have to simplify the production function that we are already given. So we can just write that y is equal to, it is given as a log L plus 1 minus a log k, right? This is already given to us in the question. What you can do is just simplify this. How will you do that? Log, just use the properties of log. Okay, whatever properties you know that you can just write this in the exponents. Now what else? You can just write this as log a and L raised to power k and k raised to power 1 minus a. So this is the same thing as this. So now you can see that this is just a monotonic transformation. This is a monotonic transformation, which means that it will give the same marginal rate of substitution as if we were just to take this value and remove the log. Okay, so you can clearly see that this is a Cobb-Douglas production function, and a very important property of the Cobb-Douglas production function is that the elasticity of substitution is always 1. So without solving anything, we just simplified the production function that we were already given. We already know that the answer is 1. Okay, so this was the easy method. This is the smarter way to do it. But if you want to do the calculation, we can do the calculation and we will do the calculation. Okay, first of all, write down the production function that we are already given. It is a log L plus 1 minus a log k. So just find out the MPL and MPK. It is not very difficult. You already know how to do it. MPK is what? It is 1 minus a upon k. Then just find the MRTS. You just divide MPL upon MPK, what you'll get is a upon 1 minus a and multiplied by k by L. Then you just take the log on both sides. So log of MRTS. So what you can just do now is that you can just differentiate throughout the equation, so that you are going to be getting d log MRTS is equal to, this is obviously log of a constant and that will be a constant, so this is going to be 0 plus d log k by L, and you already know the formula for the elasticity of substitution, which is just d log k, it is this upon this. Okay, so it is d log k by L upon d log of MRTS. So you just bring that to the other side, or you divide on both sides with d log MRTS, so you get 1 on LHS and you get elasticity of substitution on RHS. So which is just d log k by L upon d log of MRTS. So 1 is your answer either ways. Obviously we have solved it using two different methods. Okay, so you can solve it with whatever method that you prefer. Both were easy and do not consume a lot of time. Obviously the first one is better. So let us look at the fourth now, which says that consider a closed economy with a consumption function given here. Y is income, the government expenditure is 3, investment function is here, where R is interest rate, slope of the IS curve. So I've been telling you guys how easy the JAM paper is. Just look, they have directly just asked you the slope of the IS curve. Even if you guys were given the marginal propensity to consume and all of that, it would have been still very easy to solve it, but they have directly just given you the equation of output. Okay, they've literally given you everything. So this is the level of the questions. You just have to practice and you just have to be honest with yourself, and it is a very easy paper, right? So look here, you already know, yeah, there is nothing to solve even here. I feel like you guys should be able to solve this on your own, very easy. Just try to solve it. Okay, instead of just waiting and looking for the solution here and there, just write down the equations that you already know and the solution is right there. There is nothing to solve here. So what is y? So y is given as c. You already have c, 0.5y. Then what is I? 4 minus 0.5 r. What is g? 3. Just simplify it. So it is 0.5 y is equal to 2 and 4, 6 and 9. 9 minus 0.5 r. So you multiply it by 2. So you will get y is equal to 18 minus r. So when you have a graph, okay, you have any graph, and you know that the IS curve is a downward sloping curve. Obviously, you know, first of all, you know that the slope is going to be negative. So even by that logic, you can literally just remove these two options. Okay, first of all. Secondly, you know that on the x-axis we have income and on the y-axis we have your interest rate. So anyways, you know that the slope is dy by dx, which means dr by dy is going to be your slope in this case, right? So you have your equation. You just have to differentiate with basically you can either take r there, or you just have to find dr by dy. So you'll just write differentiating the equation with respect to r, you will get dy by dr is equal to -1. Now just take the reciprocal and you will still be left with -1. And this is your answer. This is your slope. Your answer is D. Okay, so all you just had to do was write down the equation, and that is the case most of the times in the questions of national income and other similar topics. Okay, so let us move on. So which of the following was announced in Union Budget of 23-24 to enhance the skills of lakhs of youth in the next 3 years? So this is actually a very rare thing to happen. This is I would call this a one-off thing, because in the JAM paper not a lot of questions have ever been asked from the budget of that year. Obviously this was from the budget of the previous year. This is from the 2024 paper, and this is a question from the 23-24 budget. Okay, and obviously the answer here is D. It is the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana 4.0. Okay, but this will bring a question to your mind, that should we devote our time to go through a summary of the budget or a document of the budget? If you have time, then yes, because the reason is that there is no harm in it, right? We are citizens of India. Some basics we should know. This scheme was in the news for a very long time. So even if you are going through the newspapers or you just know a little bit of current affairs, definitely you're gonna know this anyways, right? So if you have time, if you have like more than 4 or 5 months, then yes, you can go through the budget. If you are talking about the final 2 3 months, then no, do not waste your time at all. Okay, focus on the things that are actually important and that are actually asked every year. So moving on to the sixth question, which says that suppose a random variable x follows an exponential distribution with a mean of 50, value of the conditional probability. So you are given with a very easy question. So just use the memoryless property. You can use the memoryless property in two different types of distribution. One of them is the exponential distribution. You are going to tell me that's the other one in the comments. Okay, what is the other type of property where the memoryless property is applied? If x is greater than the sum of s and t, and you are already given that x is greater than t, then this means that, or this is just equal to basically the probability that x is just greater than s, right? So you can just write this as probability that x is greater than 70 minus 60 is 10. So you'll just take s as 10 and you'll just take t as 60. So, and you already are given with x is greater than 60. So this just means that you have to prove that x is greater than 10. Okay, so just use the formula, directly apply the formula. What is it? You are already given with mean lambda. Mean is given as 50, right? And what is the mean in the exponential distribution? It is 1 upon lambda. 1 upon lambda is equal to 50. Lambda is equal to 1 upon 50. Now just apply the formula. Minus lambda x is equal to minus 1 upon 50 multiplied by 10. 1 by 5. Answer is C. Very easy, right? Most of the questions are like that only, as I already said. Let us move on. So it says that which of the following measures was not initiated by the government of India as a part of the economic reforms of 91. Guys, I have been repeatedly telling you that the 91 reforms, the LPG reforms, are a very important part of your syllabus. I know that the weightage of this topic of Indian economy specifically is not very high. So I know that a lot of students even tend to skip most of it, right? But the only reason that I actually tell every one of my students that you should definitely not skip Indian economy is that it is the easiest out of all the topics. Okay, you are a citizen of India, you already know most of the information, you have heard of it somewhere. So if you just read it once or twice, you are going to be very good at it. So you don't have to worry about it at all. So 91 reforms was what? The LPG. What does it stand for? If you just know that, you'll be able to solve this question. Just means liberalization, privatization and globalization. This idea itself is hinting at something. It is telling you that the economy which was previously closed was completely opened. The economy was globalized, there was privatization, the public sectors moved towards privatization, and there was liberalizations, there was cancelling and uplifting of the most of the licenses that were there to do any business or to enter any industry. A lot of licensing and a lot of paperwork was required, which was lifted. Okay, so just look at the options now. Announcement of a new industrial policy, and we are asked which one was not initiated, right? Full convertibility of rupee on the capital account. A very easy but a very tricky question for people who haven't touched this topic ever, because they often confuse the capital and current account. Even the current wasn't in 91 itself, but it was definitely initiated as a part of the reforms. So this is the correct option. Even today, as we stand today in 2026, the rupee on capital account, there is no full convertibility on it. Okay, so now your homework is that you have to go and you have to look at what this actually means. What is convertibility of rupee on the capital account and on the current account, and how both of them are different. Then removal of quantitative restrictions, obviously, as we just learned about it, that is what had happened. Guidelines for investment by foreign institutional investors in the capital market. Yes, Why? Because the market was globalized. So there were more and more guidelines that were coming in for the foreign investors. Okay, so very easy question. The notes that I have made for JAM for Indian economy are more than enough for the entire topic. Okay, so let us look at the next one, which just says that suppose GDP is given to you 1000 units, money supply is 250 units. Based on the quantities, they have even told you what you have to use. They have even told you that it is the quantity theory of money. The velocity of money is equal to what? Just write mv is equal to py, direct formula, nothing to think about. Okay, a lot of students, the mistake that I have seen that they make is that they overthinking is very bad for two reasons. First of all, it will waste your time. Second of all, it leads to silly mistakes. Okay, so the thing is that a lot of students, when they're sitting in the actual exam, they think that they are sitting in the JAM exam, they are appearing for the JAM exam. Okay, they are intimidated by it. They think that this is an exam for the IITs, so this must be very tough. So why is this question number 8 so easy, right? So they keep thinking about that and they think that it can't be true. It's too good to be true. But yes, the truth is, the reality is that it is a fairly easy paper. So you just write that velocity is equal to py upon m. Py is nothing but price into output is what it is. GDP divided by the money supply, 1000 upon 250. 4. Yes, that was it. Moving on. Okay, so let us move on to the ninth question. This is actually a very good question and a very interesting question. Okay, so let us look at it. You are given with two sets. You can just read this and which of the following is correct. You have to find whether S1 and S2 are convex sets or not. You have to check for them both individually, and when you draw the graph, you'll see why I'm saying that this is a very interesting question. This is actually a very helpful question when you are teaching the topic of convex sets. Okay, you should know what a convex set is. If you do not know the definition of it, I'll just show it to you what it is. Okay, if you just have a graph like this is O, these are the four quadrants, and you have a circle drawn around it. This is just for an example. Okay, and the shaded region is the region that we are talking about. This is the set in question. Okay, you draw a line, you draw any line through your circle. Is the shaded region a convex set or not? Is it a convex set or is it not? It is not a convex set. Why? Because there is a break in the line that we had drawn. It would have been a convex set if we were talking about the circle in the middle. If the circle itself was our set, okay, if this was the shaded region that we were concerned about, then yes, it would have been a convex set, because now when you draw a line, there is no break in the middle of the line. Okay, the line will stay inside of the circle no matter what two points you are trying to join within the circle. If at any point within your set there is a point where your line is going outside of your set, then it is not a convex set. Now let us look at the question and let us draw the graph. Okay, so the first thing that we're given for set 1 is x plus 1 is greater than equal to 1. You just know that it is just this line at the points of 1 and 1, and because it is talking about greater than, so we are talking about the region outside of this set. Greater than or outside or above this line, everything above this line and including this line as well. Why? Because it is greater than equal to. Okay, simple. Then x plus y is less than equal to 2. Similarly, parallel line at the next point, draw a parallel line, 2 and 2. But this time we are not talking about the set outside, we are talking about inside of it. Why? Because we are talking about less than and equal to. The lines are also included. Okay, so this area is what we are concerned about. Now let us look at the third thing. Y is greater than equal to x square. How do you draw the graph of x square? You should know this. What is the graph of x square? If we are talking about in both the quadrants, it is just this, right? It is smooth at the bottom, and this is how it goes, right? Something like that. So like that. So right now we are not talking about the negative side because we are already given with two other equations. What we are concerned about is this part. So we'll just start from the origin and draw a graph like this. Simple. So at this exact line, y is equal to x square. They are equal. On the left hand side of it, y is greater than x square. If you talk about any point that comes to the left of this line, y is going to be greater than x square, and to any point to the right of this line, y is less than x square. Okay, so for the set 1, for set 1 I'm going to color it in a different color. Alright, I'll use green. So this is the set that we are talking about up until this point, and it is equal to, yes, it is equal to, so the line itself, the blue line itself, is also included in the convex set. All right, so this is our first set. Now let us draw the second set. The first thing is the same, second thing is the same, only difference is y is less than or equal to x square, which means this is the side that we are talking about. I'll color this in yellow. So this is everything to the right of this line and the line itself as well, because we are talking about y is less than or equal to x square. Okay, so that is included in it. Now set 1, set 2. Now we have to find if one is convex, both are convex, or none are convex. Okay, and how do you do that? As I have just told you, you draw a line. If in this part anywhere you feel like that, you draw a line. This is how we solve it graphically, right? This is a very easy method and a very convenient method. So if you draw a line anywhere here, you will see that no matter what you do, the line is not going to go outside of the curve, outside of the convex set, the entire set. But if you draw a line here, I know that it may seem very minuscule right now, but think of it like this, because our lines are very thick right now. Okay, if we just take, if I just connect these 2 points, these 2 corner points, you will see that I'll have to zoom it a lot, but at some point it is going to cross the curve. Why is that? Because whenever you have a curve like this, right, and you are talking about that your shaded region is on the downside of it, on this part, if your shaded region is below it and the curve itself is also included, then when you connect these 2 points, always the line is going to cross it. Okay, every single time. But if you talk about this exact same curve, you just go to the top of it, to the top part of it, then you will not be able to draw such a line that is going to cross and go into this part. It is going to be impossible for you to draw straight line like that. That is why you are going to say that set 1, it is a convex set, and set 2, it is not a convex set, but because it is lying below the curve. Okay, similarly, if you would have had something like this, if you would have had the exact same setup, but instead of a graph like this, you would have had something like this, then obviously the exact opposite, S1 would have been a convex set and S2 would not have been a convex set. So right now our answer is that S1 is a convex set, but S2 is not a convex set. B is your answer. A very interesting question, right? Let us move on. So let us look at the 10th question, which says limit x tends to infinity, 1 plus 1 by x whole to the power of x is equal to what? So yeah, there are some identities that you definitely are going to have to remember. I have included all of those in my notes as well, like a lot of them. So everything similar to this, a lot of these questions have been asked before. In limits, these are the types of questions that are mostly going to be asked. Okay, so they are basically, if not this, they are going to basically ask something like 1 upon x to the power of 1 by x, or like similar types of questions, and the answers are going to be either E or 1 or something like that. Obviously the answer here is E, but I'll show you how to solve it even if you do not remember it. So you just have that the limit L is equal to 1 plus 1 by x to the power of x. So just take log. So ln L is equal to x ln 1 plus 1 by x. So another way to write this is going to be just write ln 1 plus 1 by x divided by 1 upon x, so that x goes into the numerator, right? So now what you can do is that so obviously limit x tends to infinity. So now if you apply the limit, what are you going to notice? You're going to notice that log 1 plus 1 upon x is just log 1, which is 0. So in the numerator you have 0. In the denominator you have 1 upon infinity, again 0. So we have a 0 by 0 format, and what can we do about that? We can use the L'Hopital rule. So you'll just take the derivative of this, which is going to be the whole thing in the denominator, and the denominator of 1 by x, which is 1 minus 1 upon x square. Similarly here you are going to have minus 1 upon x square. You just cancel that. Then you are left with 1 upon 1 plus 1 by x, so that is 1 upon x plus 1 upon x. So just take it. Okay, no, I don't think that you should even do that. You solve it right here. Just apply the limit now. X tends to infinity, so you'll just left with 1 by x, right? So very easy. So now this is equal to limit of log of L, or your limit. So your L is going to be nothing but just e, right? Because you just take the exponent on both sides. So your answer is e. So again, a very easy question, and these are the types of limits that are going to be asked. You can track back to like more previous year papers, and you will find similar questions in those papers. Okay, so looking at question number 11. Two distinct integers are chosen randomly from 5 consecutive integers if the random variable x represents the absolute difference between them and the mean and variance of x are. Okay, so these questions are best solved with the table. So you just have that x is equal to b minus a or a minus b and the absolute difference of it, and we are talking about any 5 consecutive integers. Okay, so let's just draw a table of it, and you'll understand even better. So we'll just write the sets of two different numbers. Okay, and we'll write the difference here, and then we'll move on to the next stuff. Okay, so we'll start with 1 1 2 1 3 1 4. Okay, so now that we have x, we'll just make a different table for the probability distribution of x. So x is what? X is just the differences, right? So we'll just make a table for this. Then you have x, you have the frequency, or we'll just write probability directly. We don't even need that. So x, the differences are it is either 1, it is 2, 3 or 4. Okay, so the total number of these are 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. So it is going to be divided by 10 for the probability. 1 2 3 and 4. 1 appears 4 times, so the probability of 1 is 4 by 10. Similarly 2 appears 1 2 and 3 times, then this should be 2 times, and it should be 10 times. Add these up and check if it is 4 3 7, and yes, so the total probability is 1. So now just calculate ex. How do you do that? You just multiply x with the probability of x, right, and the sum total of it. So you 1 into 4 by 10, you add it up. Then finally 4 into 1 by 10. So your answer is going to look something like 20 upon 10, which is just 2. That is ex, right? So we'll can I just draw it on the same page? Okay, I'll just draw it here. You just need x square basically. So I mean, I shouldn't have to calculate it like this. You guys should be able to calculate it yourselves as well, but I'll do it anyway. So you obviously know it is what? Ex square minus ex whole square. So ex whole square would be nothing but 4, and for ex square you know that 1 into 1 by 10, 4 by 10 plus 4 into 3 by 10, 9 into 2 by 10, 16 into 1 by 10. So this total would look like 50 by 10, which is 5. So now variance of x is 5 minus 2 ka square. Your answer is 1. Variance is 1, and what was the ex? It was 2. Okay, so your answer is 2 and 1, D. Alright, let us move on. It says that consider two independent random variables. X is a normal distribution with 5 as the mean and 4 as the variance, whereas y is also a normal distribution with 3 and 2. If 2x plus 3y is also a normal distribution, then find the values of the mean and variance of whatever this thing is. Guys, if you have done any stats, you will know that this is a very easy question. And remember one thing, the cutoff in the 2024 paper was for the general category was about 25 or something marks out of 100. Okay, so if you say that the jam gate CUT these papers are tough, then you are absolutely wrong, right? Because this is the level of the questions that are being asked, and the cutoff is that low on these questions. Okay, so just by the first 12 questions that you have already seen that have been so easy, you could have scored 14 marks, right? Already out of the 24 that was the cutoff. Okay, so now let us look at the question. It is a very easy question. They are just asking you two properties. The first property is when you add the means of two different distributions, what happens? The formula for it, which is E of x plus y, it is, let's say, ax plus by. Okay, so it is just aex plus bay. And similarly, when you are asked for variance of ax plus by, it is a square. You just square it up with variance of x plus b square plus variance of y plus 2ab covariance of x and y. So that is it, right? So let us just substitute in the values, and that's it. That's all we have to do here. So a is given as 2, ex is 5, plus b is given as 3. We just take this distribution as z, whatever we are talking about, then ez basically, right? So 3 into what is this? This is also 3. Okay, so this is 19. So 19, 19, 19, these two options are already out of the picture. Then your variance is either 14 or 34. So calculate the variance of z. A square 4 multiplied by 4, then you add 3 square is 9 multiplied by 2, that is 16 plus 18, 34. A is your option. So what happened to the covariance? Can you guys tell me? Think about it. When I'm solving these questions, just don't sit there completely blankly. Okay, try to give your inputs to yourself. Try to think about what is actually going on in the question. Covariance is 0 because you are clearly mentioned that it is x and y are independent random variables. Okay, so let us move on. Okay, so the 13th one, a very easy question again. It is just a linear programming problem, and you are given everything that you are ever going to need in this lifetime. Just draw the graph. Okay, so the first, just the very easy way to solve it is just draw a very small table for each of these and write the equation on top of it. 5x plus 4y, x and y. If x is 0, sorry, less than 20. So if x is 0, it is 5. It is, if this is 0, this is 4. So you locate that on the graph and you connect the dots. Similarly, for the next one as well, it will be x will be 5 and y will be 3. So this is going to be a graph, and obviously it is below or equal to, so the region shaded would be towards the origin, right? So similarly, the third equation tells you that x will be 2 and y 4, so somewhere here. So this is your equation. So just this is the part that we're talking about. So we'll just label everything really quickly. This is A, B and C. Okay, so find out the values at each of these points. At O is obviously 0 0. So at A, what is the value? A is, x is obviously 0, and y was, what was y? Y was 2, right? Yes, y was 2. So at B, you are going to equate two of the equations. Which of these are these? It is the second and the third equation, right? This line and this line. So this line is the third equation, and this line is the second equation. Okay, so what you can do is just find the value of y from the second equation. Y is nothing but 4 minus 2x. Now you take that and you substitute that into the second equation, so that you will get the value of x and y from there directly. X plus 5 into 4 minus 2x is less than equal to or just equal to 15. Okay, so from here you are going to be getting, okay, so you just solve the equation and you'll get x is equal to 5 by 7. Similarly, you can just put it in the first equation that we solved, 4 minus 2x, and you'll find that y is 18 by 7. So that is B. That is that are the values at point B. Similarly, for point C, you already know that y is 0 and x was what? This is the third equation, right? X was 2. Okay, 2 comma 0. Also, another small correction, this is supposed to be 3. Okay, this is 3. So now you just take a new page and you just substitute the values, all of it, of A, B and C, and the origin also in Z. Z, write the equation on top. Z is equal to 2x plus 3y. It is equal to 2x plus 3y. So Z at A, at point A, it is going to give 3y, right? Sorry, 0, 3, right? So 9. Similarly, Z at B is going to give what? 5 by 2 into 5 by 7 plus 3 into 18 by 7. So that is going to give you 64 by 7. So Z at point C is just 2 comma 0, so 4, and Z at the origin is 0. So obviously 64 by 7 is something like 9.17, like it is something like 9.1. Okay, so it is greater than ZA is the point. So ZB is the highest value, which means that B is going to be our highest value. What do we have to find? Optimal value. Okay, we just have to find the maximized value, which is 64 by 7. So the option B is the correct answer. Let us move on. Alright guys, now moving on to the 14th question, which is just asking for the solution of this differential equation. This is a section where a lot of students face problems, and the reason behind that is that most of you haven't done this back in your graduation or in your school days. Okay, so the people who have already done it in their graduation or whatever, then they do not face as much problems as the other ones. So anyways, this is a very good example to show you guys as to how you can approach these questions step by step. Okay, the first step is always going to be just simplify the equation that is already given to you. Write it in the dy by dx form. You just take the dy terms on the right side, right? And then you bring dy and dx on one side, and the thing that you are going to be getting is xy upon x square plus y square. So that is always your first step, all right? Right. So the next step is going to be that we should substitute y, and we can just write y is equal to vx. The reason we are doing that is that we can directly identify the equation that we have as a homogeneous equation, And how can we do that? If let's say that we equate x and y, you'll get x square upon 2x square, so you'll just get 1 upon 2, which is a constant value. So you know that lambda is going to get cancelled. So just by that you can directly very easily identify that it is a homogeneous equation where substitution will make the question very easy. That is why we substitute it. And simplifying further, you can just write dy by dx is equal to v plus dv by dx multiplied by x, right? So just use this. I'll take this to a new page. Okay, so just use this, whatever we have that on the LHS, instead of dy by dx, we are going to be writing v plus dv by dx multiplied by x is equal to xy, right? So you write v into x square upon x square plus v x square plus v x square v square. So x will get cancelled throughout. You will be left with 1 plus v by 1 plus v square. So now what we do is that we take v to the right hand side. So on the LHS, obviously x dv by dx is left. On the right hand side, v minus another v, because v is multiplied to the denominator and then we subtract, and minus v cube divided by 1 plus v square. So v gets cancelled, minus v cube upon 1 plus v square. So now all you have to do is that take the v terms on one side and take the x terms on the other side. So the best way to do it is if we take the v terms on LHS, because then we'll have dv on the numerator. So 1 upon v square divided by minus v cube into dv is equal to dx upon x. Integrate on both sides, right? So if you just take the minus side, the minus sign on the x side, that will make the question easier for you. So the final answer that you are going to be left with for the integration part is, it is a fairly easy integration, right? Just separate the terms in the numerator and you'll be very easily able to solve it. After solving, this is what your solution is going to look like. Log v is equal to minus log x plus c. Okay, that is what it is going to look like. Now substitute back the value of y, which was since y is equal to vx, v is equal to y by x, right? So after the substitution is done, you'll be left with, it would be very good if you are also solving the questions. Okay, don't just look at the solutions. Every time I tell you a step, you go ahead and you solve that step. Okay, minus log x plus c, right? Just go to the new page, and now after simplifying the logs, just take the logs to one side, and what you will be left with is log y is equal to x square. You take this to the right side as well. Okay, so this is what you are going to be left with. And if you look at the question, you'll look at the option. All of the options are given in the format of y is equal to e of something. So obviously we know that we are going to be taking the exponent. So y is equal to e of x square divided by 2y square. So that is the, let us see which option matches. Okay, so to simplify this further, because what will happen is that if you just take the exponent right now, you'll get no option where the answer matches. So now you have to do some jugaad. Now you have to do something to actually get your equation in a similar format as the options. Okay, so what you'll do is, because you see that in none of the options is there a 2 in the denominator with y. So what you can do is take the 2 on the other side, because c is obviously, you won't even find c here as well. So just forget about c. So what you can do is that 2 log y is equal to x square upon y square. This will give you log y square is equal to x square upon y square. This will give you now that y square is equal to e x square by y square. So that is going to be your final answer, and you'll definitely find an option like that, which is this one here. So B is your answer. Okay, so you just have to keep all of these steps in mind and you'll be able to solve any similar question. Okay, so now let us take a quick look at the 15th question, which just says that which of the following is not correct. Permanent settlement was introduced by Lord Cornwallis in Bengal in 1793. So basically, the British rule and the questions regarding the Indian economy in the British rule are very rare. But yes, there is some weightage. You can see how many questions have been asked in the weightage video. But yes, definitely it is a topic that can be covered if the time allows. Okay, if you are a UPSC aspirant, or if any UPSC aspirant is actually, or a person who has prepared for the exam prior to this, will definitely have an edge over you in these types of questions. Okay, so that is why you don't have to worry about that a lot. You just have to edge them over in other sections, right? So permanent settlement was introduced. Yes, this is absolutely correct. The first war of Indian independence occurred in India. Yes, the Sepoy Mutiny. Then in 1905, Swadeshi movement was started in India. Yes, the date was 7th August, which also happens to be my birthday, which is why I never forget this statement. And then Dadabhai Naoroji prepared the estimate of national income in 1860. This is actually incorrect, even though this part is correct, that he was actually the first person of India who had prepared a national income estimate, and he is one of the most important economists of the British Indian time, the time when India was under colonization. Dadabhai Naoroji was one of the most important economist. So definitely his book Poverty and Un-British Rule is also one of the most important works of that time. Okay, so that is also something that you should know. It was published in 1901, right? So this was the answer to it. I'll give you some other important facts also. I had written somewhere. Okay, the first census. I feel like this could be an interesting topic for the JAM or GATE exams. It was done in 1872 by Lord Mayo, who was the viceroy of that time. It was the first attempt. Basically, it wasn't the complete census. The first complete, or you can just write this was the complete census, was in 1881 under Lord Ripon, or however you pronounce his name. All right. Although another fact which is kind of interesting was that the first census of a city, the first complete census of a city, which was in the city of Dhaka, you would have heard about it like back in school also. That was back in 1830. So that is also kind of interesting. I mean, if you are interested in demographics and what have you. All right, moving on. So the 16th question says that in a two-player game, player 1 can choose either M or N as strategies. Player 2 can choose X, Y, Z as strategies. Player of making matrix is this. Which set of strategy profiles survives the iterated elimination of strictly dominated strategies? So player 1 is playing here and player 2 is right here. Okay, you have to find out which of these cells will survive at the very end of it. Now another thing is that when I'm solving the game theory questions, those are very fun, right? And another reason behind that is that it shows you that branding is actually very important, because even though it might feel like a very boring economics question to a lot of people, it just has the name game in it, dude. I don't know, it just sounds fun to me. It just feels like fun. It feels like I'm playing a game. Okay, so let us start. So if we just have to compare the different payoffs for both player A and B, or player 1 and player 2, and if there is a row or a column that is strictly dominating the other, we are going to eliminate that. Okay, so let us start right here. Okay, so let us start with assuming that player 1, or let's say that player 2 is going first. Okay, so when player 2 is going X, when player 1 goes M, he gets 1, and when he goes N, he gets 0, right? Similarly, when player 1 when player 2 has gone Y, so he'll get 0 here and 3 here and 2 here and 1 here, right? So 2 here and 1 here. Okay, so if you compare X and Z, right, for player 2, when player 1 is going M, he is getting 1 here and 2 here, so Z is better than X. If player 1 is going N, then player 2 is getting 0 here and 1 here. So in both cases, Z is strictly dominating X. the strategy of going Z is strictly dominating the strategy of going X for player 2. So we can just cut this whole thing off. It is strictly dominated by Z. So again, now what we're going to do is that just look out for what happens to player 1 when player 2 goes Y. Player 1, when he goes M, he gets 0. When he goes N, he gets 1. N is better than M in Y. When player 2 goes Z, N will give 0.5, M will get -1. So in both of these categories, you will see that N is strictly dominating M. So you can just remove M for player 1, or for both of the players, because it is strictly dominating for one of the players at least. That is the condition, that for at least one of the players, if a strategy is strictly better than the other, then you can remove that, right? So now for the last one, both of these are better. So obviously you are just left with this. So Y and N is your answer. NY. Okay, A is your answer. So that was definitely fun, right? Right? I mean, it was a little fun at least. I mean, it has the name game in it, dude. What else do you want? Okay, let's move on. Okay, so now let us look at the 17th question, which says that for a profit maximizing monopolist, the ratio of the profit margin to price, which is low, it is just the Lerner index or the relative markup, has a relationship with the price elasticity of demand. Okay, which of the following is correct? Nothing is there, dude. Just write down the formula. That is the first and only step for it. It is equal to the absolute value of elasticity of demand. That's it. Now just read all the statements one by one. The larger the elasticity of demand at the profit maximizing price, the greater is the relative markup. What is the markup? It is the difference between P and MC. Clearly, the numerator here and the denominator here have an inverse relationship. If this is larger, this will be smaller. Very, very obviously. Remove this. Then the power to sustain a price higher than the marginal cost depends only on the profit maximizing price. Only on the, no, that is absolutely wrong. Again, even if you look at the graph, graphically speaking or numerically speaking, it is also going to be depending on the price elasticity of demand, alright? Then the third statement says that at the profit maximizing price, given costs are greater than 0, the price elasticity of demand is okay. So we're going to need another formula for it. I did not anticipate that, but it is also a very easy formula. MR is equal to price into 1 upon absolute 1 by the absolute value of the elasticity of demand. Okay, so logically speaking, you know for a fact that this is just saying that the monopolist always operates on the elastic part of the demand curve. We have seen that in the previous lectures, and I've taught that elsewhere a lot of times. Okay, that is a very important fact that you should be knowing already. Okay, so that is one thing. That is the logic behind it. Numerically speaking, we are trying to say that MR right now, MR is greater than 0. We don't care about any values. Just to keep this thing positive, let's see what should happen to ED. Okay, let us say that the price elasticity of demand is 1. What will happen? 1 minus 1 is 0. MR will be 0. That is where TR is maximized. TR is maximized when MR, the marginal revenue, is 0. Alright, so that is the point to keep in mind. If ED is less than 1, it is, let's say, half. 1 minus 1 upon 1 by 2, that will be 1 minus, so that will be minus P. MR will be less than 0 if ED is less than 1, or if the elasticity of demand is inelastic. Basically, at that point, the only place where marginal revenue or marginal cost is going to be greater than 0 if the ED is greater than 1, strictly greater than 1. Now read the statement again. The given costs are greater than 0. Price elasticity of demand is strictly larger than unity. Absolutely. Okay, these are just two formulas that these will solve like a lot of your questions. In the 2025 paper, I showed you that I solved about three questions using this formula alone. Okay, so these two formulas will always come very, very handy to you. So always remember them, okay? Then at the revenue maximizing price, the price elasticity of demand is greater than unity. We just saw that it should be equal to 1. Okay, so this is also wrong. Your answer is C. Let us move on. Which says that to study the effect of x1 and x2 on y, the following regression model is estimated using a large sample, which means that you can also use the z-test. So y is given as this. The OLS estimation and standard error are, everything is given to you here. Given the above information, which of the following is correct? So you are given with 4 options. So to solve this, you are going to need 2 things. The first one is that you are going to have to remember the different values that the z is going to take at different significance levels. Okay, I'll just the ones that are needed here are 1, 5 and 10. So those are the ones that I'm going to be making here. Okay, I'll make a really quick table. Here is the significance level and here is the z value. Obviously you can also use the t-test to solve it, but more commonly at this level we are just teaching the z-test, right? Or the z values we are telling you to remember. Okay, so at 1% significance level, at 5% significance level and at 10%. So it is the highest, it is 2.58, then 1.96 and finally 1.65, right? These are some values that you are expected to remember. I'm not sure if you are given a Z table in the actual exam. I mean, we weren't given one in 2025. So, or maybe we were, I don't know if that was GATE or JAM. I'm not sure about that. So, you should remember it either ways. Okay. So, now the second thing that you should know is that the formula to actually calculate Z is just estimates divided by standard errors. Okay, so you'll have to find Z alpha, Z beta 1 and Z beta 2. That is all that you need. Okay, so you can just calculate it here also. Here, this is just 2, this is 3 and this is 1.8. You don't even have to put a lot of effort into it. They've already given you very simple values so as to not make you waste any time here. Okay, so these are the values that you have now. So alpha is 2. It is greater than 5%, but it is lesser than 1%. Okay, it is greater than this, but it is lesser than it is a value in the middle. So we will just consider it at 5%. Alpha, it is statistically significant at a 5% level. So these two options are out of the picture. Only these two remain. Then beta 1 is 3. It is even greater than this. It is bigger than everyone. So we'll take that at 1%. So your option is C. You don't even have to look at beta 2. But even if we do, beta 2 was at 1.8, right? So it is below the 5% level, but higher than the 10% level, somewhere here. So we'll say that it is significant at 10% level. Okay, so that is how you solve it. Even if you were given kind of different significance levels, you should just remember some of them, and that will be more than enough for you. Okay, so let us move on. The kind of questions that we have seen in econometrics in JAM and GATE both, mostly JAM, are very conceptually based. They aren't making you do any actual calculations or anything like that. If you are just very clear in your concepts for the Z values and for the sampling part and all of that, I feel like that would be more than enough. That is why I tell students that they should focus more on the theoretical parts. They should be very clear with their basics and their concepts. Okay, let us move on. Let's read the 19th question, which says that suppose high quality and low quality products are sold at the same price to the buyers. Buyers have less information to determine the quality of the product compared to sellers at time of purchase, which is the following. This is the lemon market problem that you are taught. Some of the cards in the market are good cards, some of them are bad cards, and they are both selling. They are not telling you which ones are good and which ones are bad. So because of a lack of information, you are bound to make the wrong choice, or either that or what happens after that. You obviously know all of that, so I'm not going to waste a lot of time here. Obviously, you know that if you make if the problem arises after the purchase, it is a moral hazard. If the problem is before the purchase, which is this, it is the adverse selection problem. You should know and you should study all four of these. All four of these are going to be important in the externalities part. Okay, let's just move on. Let us read the 20th, which says that individuals who were either employed or out of the labor force but had worked for at least 30 days over the reference year were included in the labor force by the NSSO in its labor force service. At least 30 days is what we are being asked. Under which of the following classifications does the above procedure appear? So, you should know all four of these classifications in detail, first of all. Secondly, two of these options you can just eliminate by the names: weekly, daily. We are talking about at least 30 days, over 30 days, right? So the usual principal status, that is for over 1 year, but the usual principal and subsidiary status, which is the UPSS, that includes UPS and it includes the subsidiary status, which is 30 days, or the monthly work, which is why B is your answer. I've told you this already. When you are down to a 50-50, you must take a guess. Okay, you must take a guess. And if you were just to deduce it by the name itself, then you could have reached the answer even if you have not heard of it ever before. Even though you should be knowing this in detail if you are entering the exam hall. That is a different case. Okay, so let us move on. Okay, so moving on, let us read the 21st question, which says that let the production function be given by this, where at time t, yt is output this in the, so you can read all of that. Alpha is 1 by 5 and beta is 2 by 5. If the growth rate of yt is 10%, let us write all of this down. Let's take a new page. The growth rate of y is given as 10%, or 10%, just let's just directly take the values. It is 0.1. Similarly, gk is 0.05, 5%. So growth rate of h is also same, and of l, h is 0.05 and growth rate of labor is given as 0.1. Okay, so what you have to find is the growth rate of AT, which is AT is the level of total factor productivity. So first of all, what you should know is that how you have to use this information, right? So either you can memorize the formula or you can understand how the formula works, or your second option is that you go the long route. You'll have to take logs on both sides, then you'll differentiate, and then you'll get something like this, right? We have seen this already, and this is actually just the growth rate of A, right? So at the end, if you already try and understand how it works, if you look at the LHS, we have growth rate of y, right? We have y. So eventually, after taking the logs and differentiating, we'll have the growth rate of y on the left hand side, and similarly on the right hand side, we'll have the sum of each of these terms, because we'll take a log and then log a and plus log k and so on. Okay, so that is the logic behind it, and the exponent will come down when you take a log. So the exponent is going to be multiplied to the growth rate, right? So now let us write the formula and try to understand what we really mean. Gy is equal to growth rate of A, plus, not equal to, plus the exponent of capital was alpha, so alpha gk, plus similarly do the same with all the rest of the terms, beta gh, plus 1 minus alpha minus beta, what is it? It is gl. 1 minus alpha, yes, so it is gl. Okay, so now you can just substitute in the values, which is 0.1 is equal to, you can write this as x, plus alpha is what? It is 1 by 5 and 2 by 5. So 1 by 5 multiplied by 0.05 plus 2 by 5 multiplied by 0.05 plus this would be 2 by 5 multiplied by 0.1. So 0.03, which is nothing but 3%. That is the GA basically. So 3% is B. B is the right answer. So it was very easy. All you had to do, if you already remember the formula, which will only come to you by practice, then you can just write it down. Otherwise, you'll just take the logs and differentiate. That'll take you an extra minute or so, right? So just practice enough questions and it'll come to you naturally. Okay, so moving on. It says that consider an economy where technology is characterized by the production function. It is given here. Assuming perfect competition in the product market and in the factor market, the share of total income paid to labor is equal to what? It is equal to 0.6. It is equal to 0.6. And now if someone comes to you and he says that now tell me the share of total income paid to capital, then what is the answer? It is 0.4. Do I have to solve it? Am I doing some sort of black magic here? Or is it given to you in the question itself? The longer way to solve it, to solve for labor, is that you find out MPL, you equate it to W or the wages, and then you just take WL upon Y, and where Y is the total and this is the share of it, right? So that would be the longer way to solve it. You should solve that way also, because just in case you get stuck in a different kind of a question, you should know how to practically solve this type of question. All right, so do that. That is your homework as well. All right, so let us move on. So the 23rd question says that in a two-player game, player 1 can choose either U or D, which is up or down. Player 2 can choose left or right as strategies. Let C be a real number that such that C is smaller than 1 and greater than 0. If the payoff matrix is this, then the number of pure strategy Nash equilibria. Okay. So I'll tell you straight up, the best way to solve these types of questions is just take a numerical example, whatever comes to mind. You can take whatever is the most comfortable for you. Obviously, I would suggest to just go with the midpoint because it is just the easiest thing to do. Okay, you'll see a lot of questions in probability, a lot of questions in maths, in functions, okay, where you'll find kind of these examples or kind of these sort of questions where you will be given variables and you'll be asked to find uh, in terms of a real number, like it is acting like a real number. So in these situations it is best to just throw out the logic and just use a real example which will confirm you if your logic is working or not, right? So let's just take it as 0.5 and let's just put in the values. It will take absolutely no time at all. So minus 0.5 minus 0.5 0. It will also make sure that you don't make a silly mistake, right, which you very often do. Okay, so left, right, up, down. So the player, this is what player 1 can choose this, right? So this is player 1, player 2. So when player 2 is going L, this guy is going to go here. When he's going right, he'll go here. When player 1 is going up, this guy is going to go here. And when player 1 is going to go down, he'll go here. So these are the only two options to you have two pure strategy Nash equilibria. Okay, so if it was a mixed strategy question, then it would have been a very different case, but right here this was a very easy question. Let us move on. The Rangarajan panel on 4th June 93 submitted recommendations related to balance of payment, which of the following was not a part of the panel's recommendations. Efforts should be made to replace debt flows with equity flows. The ratio of debt linked to equity should be limited to 1:4. The minimum targets for foreign reserves should be fixed in such a way that the reserves are generally in a position to accommodate imports of at least 3 months. No sovereign guarantee should be extended to the private sector. Now, if you look at this question, obviously you'll think that it is almost next to impossible to solve. And yes, I would recommend you to not attempt such a question in the actual paper. Okay, if we are being serious right now, it is about negative 0.67. Okay, so it is not a joke that you just feel that one of the options are right and you just put a tick on that. So if you are able to eliminate at least two, if you feel like you know for a fact that A and D are right and you are stuck in B and C, then sure, go for it. Unless you are down to a 50-50, do not attempt this question. That is what I would recommend. So I feel like that sitting in the exam hall, the only logic that you can clearly apply is that the ratio of debt to equity in when we are talking about balance of payments and foreign investments, let's say, it should be limited to 1:4. So you are saying that if we are talking about foreign investments, then 20% of that should be debt and 80% of that should be equity. And the Rangarajan panel would recommend the government to fix a limit on the type of investment. And when we're talking about balance of payments of India, like these things, definitely I think that there was a suggestion made where they said that equity should be preferred, but to make such a rigid recommendation to the government of India at a time where clearly things were not going very well, like right after the economy was open to the rest of the world. If you really think about it, if you have like certain peripheral knowledge, then this would stand out to you as being the least logical. Okay, so that way you can rationalize and you can answer these types of questions. But again, I'm repeating myself that I would not recommend you to solve these types of questions in the actual exam hall. Okay, so let us move on. So let us read the 25th question, which says that according to the State of Inequality in India report from the Institute of Competitiveness released on 18th May 2022, which of the following statements is correct? Even before reading the options, even if you are a UPSC aspirant, you are preparing for the civil services examination, you would read reports by Niti Aayog, you would read a lot of reports by a lot of different organizations, but I am pretty sure that you are not going to read this report in depth, right? I can say that very confidently. So you have to understand the motivation of the examiner. Why has this question been put here? Why has this been mentioned explicitly? So let us look at the options first. In India, the percentage of anemic children under 5 years of age has decreased. La la la. So okay, this could be possible. We don't know. It is saying a good thing, right? It is saying that the percentage of anemic children has decreased. So it could be possible. Female labor force participation rate has increased. Could be possible. By the end of 2019 to 95% of all schools in India have functional toilets for girls. If you are not living under a rock, you know that's not true. So, I mean, not to be political, but I feel like you should just say that this one is wrong. Okay. So, let us read the third statement now. Using the data, the report shows that individuals with a monthly salary of 25,000 are among the top 10% of total wage earners in India. This specific statement and this news was literally all over the place on Instagram, on the news channels, on the in the newspapers, on Facebook, YouTube, whatever. This exact statement was there everywhere after this came out, after this report came out. Okay, every single YouTuber and whatever, every content creator was talking about this. So this was a very famous statement. Only by that logic can you say that you should attempt this question. Otherwise, if this was not such a viral thing, if this was not as famous, then among these three options, anything could have been correct. Okay, if you put that fact aside that this was literally everywhere. So if you use Instagram or whatever, you would have heard of this thing. And yes, this was the right statement as well. So it was pretty obvious. The only thing that you could have confidently said that is absolutely wrong is the fourth statement. Okay. So again, this type of question is, well, unless you have heard of it, you should not go for it. Okay. Otherwise, some teachers will say that, oh, the data is so specific. What if it was 56.8.7 or whatever? So when the data is very specific, then you should not go for that. Yes, that is true sometimes. But what if JAM just decided to go for it? You lose minus 0.67 again, right? So you have to weigh your options while you are actually attempting the exam as well. You have to just think whether it is worth it or not, right? So let us move on. Again, as I said, that you are going to be solving the test in multiple rounds. So if in the third round you feel like you haven't solved enough questions, then you go for such types of questions. Okay. So let us see the 26th question now. So it says that consider the production function, and NK and NL denote the output elasticities with respect to capital and labor, the value of their sum. Okay, not a very difficult question at all. First of all, just write down the formula of the output, any output elasticity with respect to any factor. So we just take the factor as x. Okay, so similarly nx you can write as, it is change in q upon change in x multiplied by x upon q. Okay, so that's just the formula of it. You just have to solve the entire question with this single formula. So you have q already, you have everything. So first step is to find change in q upon change in k and change in q upon change in l, right? So just differentiate it, take the partial derivative. For the first one, you are going to be getting something like this. I'll just write the direct answer. Okay, you can do the calculation part. 3 root L upon root K. Okay, and for the L part, you will get this. So now, what do you have to do? Multiply this with x upon q. This is x. So by which I mean k upon, what was q? 2 root k plus 3 root L. Is it? Yes. Plus 3 root L whole square. So this will cancel out. Then similarly for this, just this will also cancel out. This will become root k. So this will become root L. Similarly, write the q again. 3 root L whole square. So this will also cancel out. Then whatever you get, all we have to do is take the sum of it, right? So finally you will get something that will look like 2 root k plus 3 root L upon 2 root k plus 3 root L. This is what you will get after adding them up, which is nothing else but 1. Very simple question, a very simple formula, nothing much to talk about. Let us move on. So let us read the 27th now, which says that consider a short-run Phillips curve with a constant expected rate of inflation. If the aggregate demand decreases unexpectedly and the labor force remains the same, what will happen to aggregate price and unemployment rate? Okay. The first step every single time is to write down the equation for the Phillips curve. The second you see that they are talking about the Phillips curve, you write down the equation, and if you want you can even draw the graph. So they are saying that what has happened is that the aggregate demand has fallen. This will lead to a fall in output. Okay, a fall in output is going to lead to a rise in the unemployment rate. Okay, till that point we can just logically deduce very easily that a fall in aggregate demand will lead to a rise in the unemployment rate. Now what happens is that look at this difference is going to increase. Why? Let us say that before this happened, the unemployment rate was equal to the natural rate of unemployment. So this part was 0. So at that point, we can just say that the inflation rate was equal to the expected rate of inflation. All right. Before this happened. Now that this has happened, U is greater. The unemployment rate right now is greater than the than the natural rate of unemployment. So this thing becomes positive. So if this is positive, here we have a negative sign. This thing is being reduced from the expected rate. That is why the actual inflation is going to decrease. It is going to become lesser. So which is why you can just say that price falls and unemployment rises, and B is the right answer. So it will help you a lot if you just write down the equation first. That should always be your first step. Okay. So let us now read the 28th question, which says that suppose the price elasticity of demand is minus 1.5 and the price elasticity of supply is 2 by 5, then the incidence of a specific tax on the firms is equal to. So two very basic formulas that you should already know. Every coaching or every book or every resource material that you should be referring to should be having this formula, that the incidence on the firms is equal to elasticity of demand divided by the sum of the price elasticity of demand and the elasticity of supply, and we are only talking about absolute values. All right, so that is for the firms. And if we were to talk about the tax incidence on the consumers, then that would have been, there just would have been the elasticity of supply in the numerator. Everything else would have been the same. So you should write this down, right? So just substitute in the values. 1 by 5 divided by 2 by 5 plus 1 by 5, it is equal to 1 by 5 by 3 by 5. So 1 by 3 is your answer, right? Fairly simple. Let us move on. So the 29th question says that the differential equation satisfied by circles with radius 3 and center lying on the y-axis is what? Okay, so a few clarifications before we actually get into the question. There are some things that you should know if you want to solve this question. Okay, so first of all, we are talking about something like this. You have the x and y axis, you have a circle whose, okay, this is not a circle, but please assume that it is. The center of it is on the y-axis. How do you write the equation of a circle? You write it as, for a circle whose center is at any random point h comma k, you write it as x minus h square plus y minus k whole square is equal to the square of the radius. The radius is given as 3. Okay, so h is obviously 0 because it is lying on the y-axis, right? So you'll write it as x square plus y minus k whole square is equal to 9. Okay, so that is the equation of the circle in question. Now let us move ahead from that and just label that as first and differentiate this equation. 2x plus 2 y minus k dy by dx is equal to 0. Okay, so if you take x to the other side and let's take that to a new page first of all. What you can do is you can write 2y minus k is equal to minus 2x divided by dy by dx. Okay, so the 2 gets cancelled. You'll be left with y minus k is equal to minus x upon dy by dx. This is your second equation. Now you take the second equation and you put it into the first and you put it right here. Okay, you substitute the y minus k part. You will be left with x square plus it will be a positive x square upon dy by dx whole square is equal to 9. So now you take it into the numerator, dy by dx whole square plus x square is equal to 9. You take that to the other side, dy by dx whole square. So you just take the dy by dx whole square terms on one side. X square is equal to 9 minus x 9 minus x square dy by dx whole square. So obviously dy by dx whole square is nothing but x square minus 9 minus x square. This should be your answer. What is it? X square minus 9 minus x square. Okay, so it is this one. C is the right answer. So there wasn't much of the differential equations part that we learned. The concepts that we learn in differential equations, that wasn't used at all. The only thing that we used was the equation of a circle, and then we just played around with the same equation until we got it in the format that the examiner wants us to put it in, right? That was easy. Okay, so let us move on to the 30th question, which says that suppose expected inflation rate of an individual is formed as this, where pi dash is constant inflation rate, pi t minus 1 is previous year's inflation rate, and theta is a parameter or a weight which is assigned to inflation rate at different points of time. It is a value between 0 and 1. So if you carefully look at this equation, you'll just see that the expected inflation rate is an average of the current year's inflation rate and previous year's inflation rate. Okay, it is an average of both of these, with theta being the parameter that gives or assigns the weights to both of these values. Now let us read the options. First of all, we are trying to find the incorrect option. If theta is 0, the individual assumes a constant inflation rate. Let us just substitute that into the equation. So if you do that, you'll find that the expected inflation is equal to just the current inflation rate, which means that yes, indeed, the individual will assume a constant inflation rate if theta is equal to 0. Okay, because this part will become 0. So similarly, the second one says that if theta is equal to 1 or is very close to 1, and the pi bar is less than pi t minus 1, then the individual expects this year's inflation rate to be similar to last year. Yes, so this will become 0. Yes, this will become 0, and the expected inflation will be equal to last year's inflation. So that is just very easy. So they have actually explained the statements in great detail. What they could have done is that just could have put this much in, like, every option, right? So the original Phillips curve is derived under the assumption of theta is close to 1. No, that is not true. You know already that the original Phillips curve did not assume any expectations at all. These are all part of the adaptations and expectations augmented Phillips curve, right? Which are basically modifications to the Phillips curve itself. So this is the wrong statement that you were looking for. A modified Phillips curve is derived under the assumption of theta is equal to 1. Yes, that can be one of the cases of the modified Phillips curve. So this is also true. So C was your answer. So in Phillips curve, obviously the graph is going to be very important, and the equation. This was a very easy question. All you had to do was just substitute the values of theta and just try to understand the equation at hand logically. Okay, so let us move on. Okay guys, now moving on to section B, which is the section of multiple select questions. Now let us look at the 31st question, which says that in the case of a small open economy with fixed exchange rate, we just highlight this, the exchange rate is fixed and there is imperfect capital mobility, which means that the BP curve is going to be steeper. Which of the following is or are correct? So let us read the statements. Fiscal contraction will lead to a BOP deficit in short run if slope of LM curve is greater than the slope of BP curve. Then fiscal contraction will lead to POP deficit if slope of LM is less than the slope of the balance of payment curve. Okay, we'll have to draw a graph for it. Similarly, even if you read the next two options, monetary expansion leads to BOP surplus in the short run, irrespective of the slopes of LM and BP curve, and it leads to a deficit, irrespective. Okay, so we'll have to draw basically, we'll draw the graphs one by one. Can I just draw a graph here as well? So let us now make a steeper BP curve. Okay, and now we are going to say that there has been a fiscal contraction, which means obviously the IS curve is going to be moving to the left. All right. So now our original point of equilibrium was this. The new one is going to be where IS dash and LM are interacting, which is this. Okay, so as you can see graphically that our new equilibrium point is above the BP curve, and that is going to be implying something, that earlier your interest rate was here, now your interest rate is here, and obviously a steeper BP curve means that it is not as responsive to the changes in interest rate. Okay, it is not, the BP curve is not as sensitive to the changes in interest, which means that even after this fall in interest, the BP curve will not be affected as much. And since the equilibrium point is lying above the BP curve, this means that there will still be a balance of payment surplus. Okay, so we are not seeing a BOP deficit in this case because of the steep BP curve. Now let us see what happens if the BP curve is flatter than the LM curve. Let us try and draw slightly steeper LM curve, so that we'll easily be able to identify it against the BP curve. This is our BP. Okay, now we have drawn the BP curve to be flatter. Same thing happens, the IS curve shifts to the left. IS dash, this was E dash, the LM is right here, so sorry, that is just E. This one is E dash. So as you can see that your new equilibrium point now lies below the BP curve, because the BP curve is now slightly more sensitive to the changes in interest rate. That is why there is going to be a BOP deficit. Okay, that is just the standard rule. Obviously there is a whole logic behind it, what all goes down, you should be knowing all of that as well. That as you can see clearly, when this happens, your income falls, your interest rate falls. So basically there are capital outflows, and because of the capital outflows your balance of payment is going to be in deficit. Okay, and if you compare that with this case, you will see that obviously the income is still falling and so is the interest rate, but because the the BP curve is not as sensitive to this change in interest, that is why there will still not be a balance of payment deficit. So if you now try to read the options, you will find that the fiscal contraction will lead to deficit in short term LM curve is greater than the slope, which is absolutely correct. If LM is steeper, then and only then will be there a balance of payment deficit. Okay, so B is wrong. Now let us move to the next case, which is saying that there is a monetary expansion, okay, in the short run, irrespective of slopes. Okay, all right, we'll just have to draw one graph for this one. So just do the same thing again. Okay, so you can just draw whatever slopes you want. We just need a monetary expansion. Okay, so obviously the BP curve is going to be steeper because there is imperfect capital mobility. We just take it as steeper. Obviously it is going to be upward sloping regardless, but we'll just take it as steeper. Okay, not necessarily, but the most important condition is that it should be upward sloping. So this is the original point of equilibrium. Now we have a monetary expansion, LM dash, E dash, this is here, this is here. Okay, income is, now let us see all of the changes. Obviously you can see that income is increasing, interest rate is falling. Because of the fall in interest rate, there is going to be capital outflows. There is a fall in the interest rate, and because we have a small open economy, because of that the global interest rate is still at the same level. That is why all of the capitals from the small open economy are going to go abroad, right? That is why there are going to be capital outflows. And now because the E dash is lying below the BP curve, it is lying below the BP curve. Like at this point you saw that it was below, and similarly here also it is lying below. So that is why you can say that there is a BOP deficit here as well, right? So irrespective of the slopes of LM curve and balance of payment curve, there is going to be a balance of payment deficit. Yes, there is no surplus, but there is a deficit. A and D are your right options. Obviously this is one of the most important sections in the entire macro part, the Mundell-Fleming model and the ISLM graphs. So you should be knowing all of this in great detail. And as I've said already, that the most effective way to solve these types of questions is to first draw the graph. Okay, it is like, it is not very difficult at all you have to do, draw IS LMBP, and then what you do, whatever is said inside of the question, which is either monetary expansion, monetary contraction, fiscal expansion, you draw that. And then you can obviously notice what is happening. You can clearly see what is happening to interest, what is happening to income, will there be capital outflows, inflows, yeah, right? So I mean that is not a very difficult part to basically understand, right? So let us move on. So moving on to the 32nd question, which says that consider the following three utility functions. You are given with 3 f, g and h, and where x1 and x2 are two goods available at the unit prices p1, px1 and px2 respectively. Which of the following is correct for these utility functions? Just keep looking at the options and keep solving one after the other. This may look difficult to some students, but trust me, this is probably one of the easiest questions in this entire paper. Okay, so just keep solving. These are absolute free marks. So the first one says that the marginal rate of substitution is given by -1 and whatever this is. So just solve for f. MRS for f is what? MUX1, MUX2. What is MUX1? 4 upon 2 equal to 2. It is not equal to -1. So obviously this is wrong. You don't even have to check any further, right? Then the second option says that if px1 is equal to px2, then the utility maximization problem with the utility function f, which is okay, this one, has a corner solution. You should know what a corner solution means. If you have a graph and you have any substitutes, okay, anything like that, either if you are consuming all of x1 or all of x2, then that is going to be considered as a corner solution. And when is that? That is either when MRS is not equal to the ratio of prices of two goods. Okay, so whenever that is the case, you'll have a corner solution. Now let us check. Obviously we have the MRS, and you know that the price ratio is going to be 1. So MRS is greater than px1 upon px2, which means that we are going to be consuming only x1. So obviously this is right. You have a corner solution which will look something like this. The solution will be on the x-axis. Then if income is 100, px1 is equal to px2 is equal to, then a utility maximization problem with the utility function g, the sum of optimal values of x1 and x2. Okay, so this is like, I don't even know what to tell you, because here you are not even going to need the actual utility function. What you should do instead is just write down the budget of it, right? What is the budget? P1x1 plus P1 plus P2x2 is less than equal to the income. So the income is given as 100, prices are 2. Just write that down. 2x1 plus 2x2 is less than equal to 100, which means x1 plus x2 is less than equal to 50, whatever the values of x1 or x2 are, whatever they are, their sum is going to be less than or equal to 50. And what does our option say? It says that the sum of optimal values of x1 and x2 is 50. Even if they are not optimal, their value is still 50, whatever values you can put. If income is 100, px1 is 5, px2 is 5000, then in the utility maximization problem of function h, the optimal value of x2 is 20. Forget about h, don't look at h. Tell me if your income m is 100 and your price of x2, we are talking about x2, p2 is 5000. Can you even buy a single unit of x2, much less 20 units of it? Can you buy even a single unit? This is absolute nonsense. So these questions are also there for you, which are absolutely free marks. Some students just look at it from like an overview in the actual exam and they feel like it is a tough question, so I'll just solve it at the end. And if they have less time, they don't even try to attempt it. And look at this, these are free marks from JAM to you. Okay, so moving on. Okay, so the 33rd says that the characteristics of the pure public goods is or are, and you are given with 4 options. First of all, just understand what a pure public good is. I'll just give you an example. I feel like I have taught this before in the lectures. You can watch one of those videos. It is saying that a pure public good, first of all, a public good is any good that is going to be accessible to everyone, right? Regardless of whether you have made a payment for it or not. And a pure public good is obviously the extreme condition for it. A very good example of it is going to be national defense. Okay, it is going to be national defense. The Indian Army, the soldiers who are at the borders, they do not care whether you are a taxpayer, you are a child, you are an adult, you are a woman, you are whatever your religion is, whatever your caste is, they do not care about anything. They work day and night to protect you regardless of whoever you are or whatever you are. Okay, so tell me, is that service rival in consumption? Rivalrous good is something that the consumption of one is going to be decreasing the consumption for the other. So if Indian Army is protecting your neighbor, does that mean that service is not going to be provided to you? Absolute nonsense, right? So it is non-rivalrous and non-excludable. No one is excluded from the protection of the army. Okay, so that is a very easy question. Obviously, you should be knowing all of this already, but if you do not, you should be revising these topics. Okay, so let us read now the 34th question, which says that consider a hypothetical economy where only apples and oranges are produced for 3 years. Then this is your table. Which of the following are correct? Let us just really quickly look at the options. This is how you should do in the actual exam hall as well. Just find out all that you have to calculate. First is real GDP in 2017, real GDP in 2016, nominal GDP of 2015, price level as measured by GDP deflator. Okay, so GDP deflator increased in 2017. Okay, so of 2017 with base year as 2016. Okay, so we have all of the things that we need to calculate. Now let us just start calculating. The first one is going to be the real GDP of 2017. You already know what you have to do. The quantity of 2017 multiplied by the price of base year, which is 2016, 200 plus 15 into 300. Calculate it. Okay, you should check that for yourself as well, just in case I am making a calculation error. So you should be calculating all of this yourself. Now second one, real GDP in year 2016, base year is 2015. Same thing again, 15 into 180 plus 12 into 200. Your answer is 5100. Third thing, nominal GDP for 2015. That is very easy. Same year, same price, same quantity. 10 into 180 plus 5 into 200. That is what? That is nothing but 2800. Your final option says that the GDP deflator is what? The formula is nominal GDP upon real GDP multiplied by 100. That is your GDP deflator. So nominal GDP of what year? 2017. So just calculate it. 18 into 250 plus 15 into 350, which gives you it will give you 9750. Then you calculate the, okay, you have already calculated the real GDP, right? The first option, which was 8100. So now GDP deflator is equal to 9750 upon 8100 multiplied by 100. It will give you something like 120.4. So obviously, since it is higher, since the base year GDP deflator is taken as 100, this is more than 100, which means that yes, the deflator has increased, or the price level, basically price level has increased. So now just match all of the options that you are given with. This is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and this is absolutely correct. Increased, yes. So a very easy question, won't take you a lot of time, but you should make sure that you do not make any silly errors. Alright, let us move on. So now let us read the 35th question, which says that let a random variable x has mean as mu x non-zero variance as sigma square x, and another random variable y has the same stuff. If the correlation coefficient between x and y is, this is p, or this is basically, it is called rho, then which of the following is or are correct? So p is less than equal to 1, which is a standard property of the correlation coefficient. You should be knowing this. You should be knowing all of the properties of the correlation coefficient and the regression coefficient. So there is nothing to explain here. This is absolutely right. Okay, then moving on, the regression line of y on x, of y on x is y is equal to this. So p into sigma x upon sigma y. It is y on x, so this part is switched. Basically, it should have been, this part is right, this should have been sigma y upon sigma x. Alright, so this is wrong. Then the variance of x minus y is this. So is this right or wrong? This is wrong, right? No, this is actually very correct. Why? You know the standard property, right? You know that if you just write variance of x minus y, it is variance of x plus variance of y minus 2 covariance of x and y, right? You know that part. Now you have to check whether this thing means the same thing or not. You first of all, you have to write down the formula for p or rho, which is the correlation coefficient, which is it is just covariance of x and y divided by the standard deviation or the root of variance of x. So basically just standard deviation of x and standard deviation of y, which can just be written as covariance of x and y divided by sigma x and sigma y, right? So if you substitute this value into this, what you will get is, you will get variance of x plus variance of y plus 2 into covariance of x comma y divided by sigma x sigma y, and then you are also multiplying it in the numerator with sigma x and sigma y. This will get cancelled, so this part is literally nothing but, okay, there is a minus sign, that was for the positive formula, so you will literally get that, right? So the statement is absolutely correct. You just have to do a little bit of simplifying in the exam. So don't just look at the statement and just say that no, that is not the general identity. It is just different, written in a different format. Then lastly, the fourth statement says that rho is equal to 0 implies that x and y are independent random variables. This is another standard property of the correlation coefficient that you should be knowing, that correlation is equal to 0 does not imply independence between two random variables. Okay, very easy here. You should be knowing all of this. So moving on, let us move on to the 36th question now, which says that let x1 x2 xn be a random sample of size n greater than 1 drawn from a probability distribution having mean as mu and non-zero variance sigma square, then which of the following is or are correct? The first option says the sample mean has a standard deviation of sigma by root, and you should, I mean, if you have studied sampling, you already know this. This is absolutely right. Then the probability distribution of this whole thing will tend to follow standard normal distribution as n tends to infinity. Yes, another very important, this is directly mentioned in the syllabus, by the way, the central limit theorem. You should know what it means, you should know the assumptions, you should know the basis of it, the concept, everything about the theorem, right? A very easy theorem, a very easy concept to understand. Then moving on, that n minus 1 s square upon sigma square will follow a chi-square distribution with n minus 1 degrees of freedom, where s square is the sample variance. This is yet another theorem which says that this will hold true, but it has an assumption, it has an underlying assumption. It assumes normality. Okay, so it can be correct, but it is not necessarily correct, because if you read the question carefully, you are not given that this is a normal distribution. Okay, you are not given that. You are given the mean and a non-zero variance, sure, but we are not given that it is a normal distribution, so it is not necessarily correct. That is why you can cut it off, because it says will follow, so that is not true. The sample mean is always a consistent estimate. Yes, absolutely. This is a standard property. This is also, you can also prove this using the law of large numbers. Yet another concept that is mentioned in the JAM syllabus directly. So the concepts that are given in the JAM syllabus, you have to do absolutely perfectly. Okay, obviously, if you have time, or at least the theoretical aspects you must do, because they have not focused a lot on the numerical aspects, especially in these topics. They have tried to keep it as easy as possible for you guys. So we have seen that they are asking the formulas and applications based on the theory and formulas. So, okay, so that is what you must do. Moving on, so 37 says that M is equal to this matrix, and it is a 2x2 matrix. Eigenvalues of M are given as beta and 4. Then which of the following are correct? Okay, so we are asked to find the sum of them, then eigenvector, rank of matrix, and whether it is inverted. Okay, so we start by using the properties of eigenvalues, two very important properties, that the sum of eigenvalues is the trace of the matrix. Whatever matrix it is, the sum of its diagonal elements is equal to the sum of its eigenvalues, right? And the second property is that the product of eigenvalues is equal to the determinant of whatever matrix we are talking about. Okay, obviously the condition is that it cannot be a zero matrix, or basically the determinant should not be zero. So now let us take this to a new page, and we are going to write the determinant there as well, which is alpha minus 6 minus 1 and 1. The eigenvalues are given as beta and 4. Okay, so now let us first of all use our first property, which is that alpha plus 1 is equal to beta plus 4. So this just means that alpha minus beta is equal to 3. And secondly, we know that we'll just really quickly find the determinant of it as well. Alpha minus the 6 is the determinant. So 4 beta is equal to alpha minus 6. This means that alpha minus 4 beta is equal to 6. So now we have the two equations. If we just change the signs of the second equation, then we can add it to the first one. Then we are going to be getting 3 beta is equal to minus 3, which means that beta is equal to minus 1. So alpha is equal to 2. So we have the two values. Now let us check the first option. 2 plus minus 1 is 1, obviously, so this is absolutely correct. Then an eigenvector corresponding to beta is 2 comma 1. Let us take it to a new page as well. So to check the second statement, basically what we're going to do is that we are going to be multiplying the vector that we are given with the matrix M, and we are going to equate it to beta with multiplying beta with the vector V as well. And if both of these are equal, then yes, the statement will hold true that the eigenvector corresponding to beta is indeed 2 and 1. Okay, so now let us just really quickly write down the matrix again, which was alpha was 2, right? So 2 minus 6 minus 1 and 1 multiplied by 2 and 1 is equal to, okay, we'll just do that later on. Let's just solve it first. So this equals to minus 1. This is what it equals to. So you can also write that as minus 1 and 2 1. So if you notice something, this is beta and this is our vector, right? So clearly it is just beta V, and that holds true, so that is absolutely correct. The rank of the matrix is 2, which it just means that the determinant should not be equal to 0 because it is a 2x2 matrix. So this was the second statement. This is the third statement, which says that rank is equal to 2. The matrix is, okay, it is just this. So 2 minus 6 into minus 1, which is 6. So it is minus 4, which is not equal to 0, which means that rank is indeed equal to 2. Then finally, the matrix M square plus M is invertible. You find out what M square plus M is. First of all, you find M square. So these are just basically some easy calculations that you can do. Nothing else is there. Okay, the matrix that we got was indeed a very interesting matrix, because if you notice something, if you just take out 3 from the top row, what you're gonna get is or rather take out minus 3, so you will get minus 4 8 and minus 4 8, and you obviously know that when you get something like this, the determinant of it is absolutely 0. The reason being that both of the rows are exactly the same, so the determinant is indeed 0, and this matrix is not invertible. C was right. Your answer is A, B and C. Alright, so a very easy question. It's just making you use the properties of the matrices and the eigenvalues, eigenvectors, which all of that should be on your fingertips by now. Okay, if you are going to for the JAM exam or the GATE exam, these properties are going to be very important for you. You should memorize all of those, right? Let us move on. Now moving on to the 38th question, which says that let f r square to r be a function defined as fx y is equal to x square y upon x4 plus y square if xy is not equal to 0, and 0 if xy is equal to 0. Then which of the following is correct? Then you have 4 options. Now let us solve them one by one. We'll take a new page as well, just in case. The first one says that limit xy both tend to 0 0, then fxy is going to be 0. Okay, so the way that you solve for the limit, first of all, like for the way you solve for option A is that you are going to be solving the function for different paths. Okay, now how do you find a path for a function like this? First of all, write down the function f is equal to x square y upon x4 plus y square. You just have to solve 2 to 3 questions of this type, and you will gain an automatic intuition just by looking at this question. You will be able to figure out that you should take a path such that you can prove that this function will not be equal to 0 at some value of x and y. So you know, if I take right now x and y both are 0, you'll just get a 0 by 0. Okay, so if I take x as 0 or y as 0, we are going to get 0 in most of the cases. So what can we do right now without taking any like constant values or something like that, without doing that, while staying inside of the limits? The limit is, let me write it down as well, the limit is x and y tend to 0 and 0, right? So you can do some jugaad, you can replace x with h or whatever like that. Okay, so let us try. Let us try and do something. Out of the many paths that we can take, for example, a path could be x is equal to y. Okay, let us see what we get at x is equal to y. You will get x cube. Okay, we are saying that y is equal to x now, so x cube upon x4 plus x square. So you get that, and you can just cancel out x. You will get x upon x square plus 1. You will get something like that. And even now, if you apply the limits, xy is 0 0, you will get 0 upon 0 plus 1, 0 upon 1, it is 0. Okay, so even at the path of x is equal to y, that is a path that you are taking, even at that path you are getting the value of 0. But if you read this really carefully, you're going to see that both in the numerator and in the denominator, the power of x, the exponent of x, is twice as large as the exponent of y. So what if I just take the path of y is equal to x square? Let us try and do that. You'll get x square multiplied by x square divided by x4 plus plus x square whole square. So you're gonna get x4 upon x4 plus x4, which is x4 upon 2x4, which is equal to 1 upon 2. This is a non-zero value. You have found a path such that on these values, without breaking the limits, you have found a value that is not equal to 0, which means that the limit does not exist. Okay, the limit does not exist because the left hand side is not equal to the right hand, because you have basically just found a limit that is just not equal to 0, right? So as you can see that here, at x is equal to at xy is equal to 0 0, the value that you have is 0 as well, which means that fxy is not continuous at 0 0 is also true. This is not true. Okay, this is not necessarily true. Now moving on to option number B, which says that fx00 is equal to 0. So again, let us take a new page for it. It is basically fx, you should know that this is just the partial derivative, right? And instead of using the partial differentiation here, what we can just do is use the direct formula, or basically use the definition of it. And the definition of x is equal to 0 is nothing but that what we are trying to do is that we replace we don't even write x, we replace x by h such that h tends to 0, and we take y as 0. Now there is a logic behind taking y as 0. When you are using partial differentiation, you are holding y as a constant value. You are making your entire graph, if your graph was something like this, you were working with 2 dimensions, now you are working in a singular dimension. You are making your function unidimensional for the purpose of differentiation. So you are moving only along on the x axis, so your y value is going to remain 0. That is why when you write this, when you write the definition of the partial derivative, you write y as 0 when you are finding the partial derivative for x with respect to x. So that is what you write first of all. Then you write minus f of 0 0 divided by h. This is your formula. So you already have the function. All you have to do is that replace x with h and replace y with 0. You will get h square 0 upon h4 plus 0. So that is numerator is 0, the function becomes 0. So 0 minus, this is already given inside of the question as 0. So this is another 0 divided by h, which is 0. So what does the option says? It is 0. Yes, absolutely. Then C we have already solved, and D says both fx and fy do not exist at, they are saying that the partial derivative does not exist at 0 0, which is false. We have just tested it, that we have been able to solve for the partial derivative of x. So this is also wrong. Your option is B and C. Okay, so you should be able to solve the double limits question, you should try to solve a few questions like these. I have obviously included this in the notes and in the assignments. So let us move on. So moving on, let us read this one. Which of the following is or are not correct? The first one says, under the RBI Act of 1938, every scheduled bank has to keep certain minimum cash reserves with the RBI. This is very close to being true. Okay, this is actually very close to being a right statement, because the thing is that CRR, or the cash reserve ratio, it was established under the RBI Act of 1934. Okay, so the rest of the statement is true. The only thing here is that 1938 is wrong. All right, so that is the level of detail to which you should memorize these things. Okay, the banking parts, okay, the CRR and the SLR and all of these important topics, you should memorize that, and you should understand the chronology to a greater detail, as you can see in this question. The second one says the CRR is a statutory reserve requirement to be kept by every scheduled bank with the RBI. Yes, this is correct. Higher SLR increases the capacity of commercial banks to grant loans and advances. This is absolutely wrong, because the thing is that SLR is basically the statutory liquidity ratio, is just a ratio of liquid assets that the bank is supposed to keep with itself. So the higher the SLR, the lower will be the amount that the bank can grant and extend as loans. Okay, so basically the capacity of commercial banks to grant loans will decrease as the SLR will be higher. So this is just saying the opposite. Also, your homework is to find out under which act was the SLR, or the statutory liquidity ratio, established. Okay, I'll give you a hint. It was not the RBI Act. Okay, then finally, a high SLR can be considered as a tax on the banking system. Sure, why not? Because the thing is that you'll see a lot of very vague and generic statements in the exam as well, especially in the Indian economy section. Okay, I also remember there was another question in the JAM exam itself, which had something like this may or may not have happened, or something like that. So when words like may, or it can be considered, or this or that, these are mostly true. In most cases, the general the statement, the harder it will be to disprove it, right? So that is why it is obviously right. We are trying to find not correct ones, so it is going to be A and C. All right, so let us move on. So moving on to the 40th question. According to Niti Aayog's National Multi-Dimensional Poverty Index, a progress review, which of the following is or are correct? So before we even get into this question, I just want to say that it is questions like these because of which the coaching industry is booming in India. Okay, in every competitive exam that you go, you will just see some random, ridiculous questions that are very out of place for being where they are. Okay, so for example, in this question, if you just read all of the four options, you'll realize that in order to answer this, even after using the logical, I'm not going to just say sit here and just preach to all of you that you just had to use logic and this was very easy to solve. No, this is a very hard question, and even after guessing, you might have gotten it wrong, and it is okay. Okay, it is very excusable. It is not a question that a lot of students will get right. Even if you get it wrong, don't blame yourself at all. Okay, so there will definitely be some questions of that type as well. So now let us read it. Then we'll try to use the logic as well. The first statement says rural areas in India have experienced a faster decline in percentage of multidimensional poverty from 35.59% in this year to 21.28%. Okay. Incidence of poverty in urban areas in India increased for 5.27 to 8.65. Okay. A decline in India's multi-dimensional poverty index is due to improvement in all of the 12 indicators. At the national level, there is a decline in the intensity of poverty. Okay. So, first of all, it is just tick the fourth option. You couldn't write a more generic statement, right? So, that should be true. And first of all, the thing is that we are in section B right now. This section has no negative marking, so I'm not going to say that you should not attempt it. Obviously, just give it your thought, whatever feels like is right, and just take whatever you want to. So D is right, obviously. Then if we come to C, a decline in India's multi-dimensional poverty index is due to improvement in all of the 12 indicators. We don't care about what the indicators are. If you are a student right now, it is going to be a doubt that comes very naturally to you, that should I start reading random reports like the National Multi-Dimensional Poverty Index in such great detail? Absolutely not. Don't even dare to bother with all of that. Okay, if you can solve these with logic, then you should do that. If not, don't even worry about it at all. So sure, it sounds right. I mean, it is a great statement. I'm not going to give you a lot of logic here. It sounds right that there would have been a decline in multi-dimensional poverty index in all of the 12 indicators. If there was an indicator where India was not doing very well, we would have heard about it in the news or whatever. That is the logic that you can use, I feel like. Then in these two statements is the elimination method that you can use, that because the numbers are so specific up to 2 decimal points, that most exams and most examiners, obviously because they do not expect you to remember this data, they put some random data, and because it is up to 2 decimal points, then that is too specific, right? So because of this level of being specific, it is mostly assumed to be a wrong statement. Because as I said, the more a state, just I'll just write it down here, dude, because that is actually a very important thing to remember and to intuitively understand, that the more a statement is generic or general, okay, the harder it is to disprove. Alright, it is going to be much harder to say that you are wrong on that. Sure, it might be subjective to a point, there will be a debate on it, but it won't be very possible to disprove that. But if a statement is specific, the easier it is to disprove it. Okay, this means that if we are talking about numbers like 28.31% in this year and 39.41%, then even if it is wrong by 0.01%, the entire option is wrong. So that is why examiners avoid trying to be specific while giving a right statement. Okay, they purposely avoid that. The reason being, even if a different report or a different source has the claim of a difference of 0.01%, a student who is going to come and he's going to file a complaint, or she is going to file a complaint, that I have read this report and it is saying that it is not 28.29, it is 28.28%. And because of that 0.01% error, the examiner is going to take back his question. Okay, they are going to have to drop the question. That is why they try to avoid taking that risk. That is a very that is a logic that is applicable to most of the competitive exams. Okay, so similarly in this question also, we see that this is such a general statement. This is also more or less general if you really think about it. These two are very easy to disprove, right? So that is the only logic that I feel was applicable in this question to answer it. Otherwise, do not worry if you get it wrong, as I said already, right? So let us move on. So now let us read the 41st. A firm has a production function that is homogeneous of degree 1 given by Q is equal to 2 root LK. Q is quantity, L is labor, K is capital. Unit price of L is 4. Unit price of K is 16. Assuming that there is zero fixed cost, the total cost of producing 10 units of Q is what? Okay, very simple. First of all, just write down the production function itself. Q is 2 root LK, and we are given that Q is 10 in our case. So that is 10. So LK is, this is 5. So LK is 25. Alright, now you can go one step beyond that and find the MPL upon MPK, which is nothing but the MRTS which is equal to what? Okay, so MPL is what? 2 root k by root by L upon 2 root L by k. This is something that you're gonna get. Then k goes to the top, you'll get k by L. Alright. So k by L is also equal to the price ratio of the inputs, which is going to be what is it? It is supposed to be W by R. W is 4. So P1 by P2, right? So similarly, the price of L and divided by the price of K. So 4 by 16. So this means that this is just 4. 4K is equal to L. Right? L is equal to 4K. This is your second statement. This is your first one. Take it to a new page, and what you are going to get is 4K square is equal to 25. This means that K square is equal to 25 by 4. K is equal to 5 by 2. It is equal to 2.5. L was 4K, right? So L is 10. So now just put in all of it in the total cost function, which is nothing but WL plus RK. So that gives you W was 4, right? 4 into 10 plus R was 16 into 5 by 2. This is 8. 8 into 4 is 40 plus 40, 80. 80 is your final answer. Very easy question. Let us move on. Okay, so the 42nd says two students A and B are assigned to solve a problem separately. The conditional probability that A can solve the problem given that B cannot solve it is 1 by 5. Conditional probability, so similarly you are given some other probabilities. The probability that B can solve the problem is, okay, so you have to find P, B. Alright, so let us see, let us just write down everything that we are given. So probability that A can solve it given that B cannot solve it, B dash is 1 by 5. Probability that B can solve it given that A can solve it is 3 by 5. And then finally probability that A can solve it is 1 by 10. Alright, so we have all of the information that we need. Let us use the formula one by one, and we can keep deducing more and more information out of it. Okay, let us use the first one first. So you know the formula, just use the formula that P A intersection B is equal to just P B given A multiplied by P A. So it will give you 3 by 5 multiplied by 1 by 10, which is equal to 3 by 50. Alright, so now what you can do is, obviously there are like a lot of ways to approach this question. I feel like this is a very efficient way to do it. Another way that you can do it is just use the base formula in a different manner. You can start with the total probability step and you can deduce it from there as well. So obviously the steps can be different, but eventually the outcome and the final step is going to be the same, which is the calculation part. So you just need the stuff before the final calculation, right? So this is going to be P A given B dash into P B dash, which is equal to A given B dash is what? A given B dash is 1 by 5 multiplied by P B dash, or let us just write it as X. Okay, I'll just write it as X. This part I'm writing as X. So now finally we have PA, and what is PA? PA is nothing but, because we know that there are only two students that we are talking about there, so that is the sample for us right now. So PA intersection B plus PA intersection B dash is going to be the total probability of A. We know that much. So as I said, this is just one way to do it. There are more ways to do it. 1 by 10. Now you just plug in the values. You already know most of it. And this is x by 5, right? So the final answer that you're gonna get from here is that x is equal to 0.2, and probability of B is 1 minus probability of not B, so that is going to be 0.8. Alright, that is your final answer. So again, you should try and solve it using a different method as well, and you should tell me if you were able to do that or not. Let us move on. So the next one says that suppose the cash reserve ratio is 5%. Assume that commercial banks keep zero excess reserve and cash to deposit ratio is 5% as well. To increase the money supply by 10,500 crores, the central bank of the country should inject dash rupees in crores in integers. Okay. Very easy question. You know the formula of the money multiplier, which is just 1 plus C upon C plus R, where C is the cash to deposit ratio and R is the reserve ratio. Okay, so that is one thing. And another thing is that you also know the formula of, you should know the dynamics between high powered money, and you should know how it changes the money supply and how the money multiplier affects both of them, right? So the change in high power money, or the money that the central bank should inject, is equal to the change in money supply that is needed, which is to increase the money supply by this much amount, right? So that is the change in money supply that is required, or which is the goal. Then finally the denominator of that is nothing but the money multiplier. Why? Because when you multiply the money multiplier with whatever amount we are injecting, this is what the final change in the money supply is, right? That is a very simple logic. So let us start from the first formula, which is m is equal to it is 5%, so 0.05 upon 0.05, both of them, so that is 0.1. That is 1.05 divided, so that is into 10 basically, so that is 10.5. And when we come to this formula, it is nothing but change in h is equal to 10,500 divided by 10.5. That is a very simple calculation. That is nothing but change in h is equal to 1000. Okay, which is also your final answer. Very easy question. Just keep in mind the formula and you'll be good to go. Moving on. So let us now read the 44th question, which says that suppose an Indian company borrowed $300 from a foreign bank. So first of all, just write down the information that is given. The principal amount that we are talking about is $300. Okay, from a foreign bank at the beginning of the year, and repaid it in dollars along with the agreed interest rate of 12% per annum. Interest rate is 12% per annum, or 0.12. At the time of borrowing, the exchange rate was 70. At the time of borrowing, initial exchange rate, so you can just write E, and okay, just write E, was 70. All right. Assuming zero inflation rate in both countries, the real cost of borrowing will be zero. The real cost of borrowing will be zero if the exchange rate is what? All right. Let us try and approach this step by step. All right. So the first step is going to be that we should understand how much or what amount are we going to repay. All right. And how do we do that? The formula for this is just write down repayment. Basically, to solve these types of questions, your logical intuition has to be very strong. So you should understand the basics of how this is working. All right, how the borrowing and lending and the dynamics of interest rate and exchange rate are working simultaneously. Okay, so it is not that tough. Once you do a couple of questions, I'm sure you'll be good to go for that as well. So repayment is equal to nothing but principal multiplied by 1 plus interest rate, or principal plus the interest rate into the principal, that is the same thing as well. So just 300 into 1 plus 0.12, your answer should look like 336. This is the amount that you are going to repay after 1 year, right? So that is nothing too difficult about it. So the second step is to convert the principal into rupees. All right, why? The reason being exchange rate in rupees. What we are doing is that we are turning everything into rupees. So the initial principal, the initial domestic value of the money that we borrowed, basically principal in rupees, is nothing but 300 into the initial exchange rate, right, into E. So it will be 21,000, right? It was 21,000 rupees. Alright, so now if you read the question carefully, you'll see that the real cost of borrowing will be zero. That is a condition that we are given. Okay, that is not something that we can ignore. That means that obviously, since inflation is zero, if there was inflation, then you could have said that okay, the inflation rate affected the principal. That is why at the time of repayment, uh, even if the principal is a different amount, even if the principal is not 21,000, it is something else. It was due to inflation that the principal had increased. But because the inflation rate is the same, you will say that the amount that you are repaying is exactly the same. So that means that we are going to write that the principal amount is equal to the amount to be repaid, which is equal to 21,000. And now that we already have the new principal in terms of dollars, right, which is 336. So something happened in the exchange rate dynamics, which is why our cost of borrowing remained zero. All right. So what happened was that 21,000 is equal to whatever new exchange rate was multiplied by 336, which was the these are the amount of dollars that we needed to repay, but this is the amount that we are actually repaying. So now all you have to do is just find E dash, which is equal to 21,000 divided by 336, and your answer is going to look something like what is it? It is 62.5. You do the calculation and make sure this is right, and this is your answer. Alright, so the logic is just very simple, that the principal amount in rupees remained the same, which means that the cost of borrowing, real cost of borrowing, remained the same. This was zero, okay, and it was zero because this is equal to the original amount, and that was because of a fall in the exchange rate. The currency basically appreciated, right? So that is why this happened. All right, let us move on. So the 45th question says there are 32 students in a class, 3 courses, English, Hindi, Maths are offered. Each student must register for at least one course. If 16 students take English and so, okay, so there's just a bunch of data. Then the number of students who take Maths only is what we are trying to find, only Maths, alright. So the first step is, I always recommend you guys to try and solve these questions using Venn diagrams, okay, because I just find it very efficient. Alright, and it is a great way to confirm whether what you're doing is right. So now let us write down the data, that English is 16, the number of students that take English is 16, number of Hindi is going to be 8, M is what, 18, number of English and Hindi is 5, and I take both Hindi and Maths is 5, Hindi and Maths is 5, and finally you are given English and Maths is also 5. Okay, so the students who take only Maths, alright. So if you just try and label the diagram, I'll just move it to the left, okay, or should I just take it to a new page? I'll take it to a new page. Okay, now you all can see this clearly. So the thing is that if we try to figure out what we are trying to find out, we can, even if you do not remember the formula, or you are confused, or you want to just reconfirm whether your formula is actually right, what you can do is just logically try to figure it out through the Venn diagram. That if you just really quickly label it English, Hindi and Math, right, we are trying to find this part. If you try to, I'll just use a different color, so try to shade it out. This is the region that you're trying to find out. Okay, so we have to what all do we have to subtract, and what all do we have to basically add? If we had all the values, okay, let us assume we have all the values, what anyone would have done is, you take the number of students that have maths, you subtract from it the number of students that have taken both English and maths, which is this region, and you also subtract from it this region, which is number of students that have taken Hindi and math. But the thing is that because we have subtracted this region twice, right, we only had to subtract it once, so we'll add it once, which is the students who have taken every subject, maths, English and Hindi. This is what we essentially have to do if we have all of the data. Alright, but since we don't have the data, we'll use a formula, and the formula is something that you can also understand intuitively, and I'll just write down the formula, which is that we are trying to find this area, right? This one. So to find that out, the formula is that the total area, which is the union of all of the three subjects, is equal to the sum of the individual subjects first of all, plus nm, and then you subtract all of these individual intersections between the two subjects, minus, I'll continue it here in the second line, minus what is left, maths and Hindi, right? And then you add finally in the end the intersection of all three subjects. Now just substitute the values, because since we already have the rest of the values, total number of students is 32. 32 is equal to English. You have all of that data, all right? I'll just write it down from here where I've already written it down before. I'll just write it down, okay? Plus 18 minus, you have to check whether what I'm doing is right as well. I'll write it down as x. I'm writing this value down as x, okay? So now just do the calculation part. 32 plus 28 plus x, 32 is equal to 28 plus x. So x is 4. We have found out that this shaded region is 4. So now just substitute in that formula that we had figured out through the Venn diagram, which is that nm is what? nm is 18 minus the maths intersections 5 and 5 minus 10 plus 4. So that is 12. So these are the students who only take maths. Very easy, right? The only thing is that you just have to understand the logic behind it. Once you do, it will be very easy for you, okay? It will be very hard for you to make a mistake in this. And trust me, it is a very common question across different competitive exams, okay? Let us move on. Okay, so now let us look at the 46th question, which is again a very simple question. Let an inverse demand function for a commodity be P is equal to this, where X is the quantity and P is the price. Then at P is equal to 0.5, the consumer surplus is equal to. Okay, first of all, what is consumer surplus? You have a you have a supply curve and a demand curve. Area above the price and below the demand curve is your consumer surplus. Now, how can we find that? First of all, let us first write down the demand function, and let us see if we can simplify it further. We'll see that after that, okay? So this is your thing, and we know that price is given as 0.5. So 0.5 is equal to E minus X by 2, and here X is the quantity, keep that in mind. So you take the log, so log of 1 by 2 is equal to minus X by 2. So you take that to the other side. It is 2. You can just simplify this as well. Minus log of 2 is equal to minus x. So the minus sign also cancels out. Log 1 is, you should know, it is 0. So this is just 2 log 2 is equal to x. Okay, so we have a very important result, that the quantity that we are going for is 2 log 2. Alright, and the price is 0.5. Now let us take it to a new page and try to understand what is going on. So basically, if this is your supply and demand, this is your price, okay, this is 0.5. So this is 2 log 2. This is price, this is your quantity x. Alright, so if I am trying to find the consumer surplus, alright, the best way to do that is going to be to integrate this whole area, if I integrate this whole area, and after integrating it, I just subtract this square, this rectangular or square looking shape from it, I'll be left with this triangle, which is nothing but the consumer surplus. Now, an important thing to keep in mind is that I am integrating the area under the demand curve from 0 to 2 log 2, which is the quantity in question. 2 log 2, we have already found that out, right? So I'll just integrate that. I'll put the limits from 0 to 2 log 2, and whatever result I get, I'll subtract this from it. And what is this? This is nothing but price multiplied by quantity, px. As simple as that. You have nothing else to do here. Okay, and I have seen a lot of students who have been confused in this question. All right, so just integrate it. You are trying to find consumer surplus, which is equal to fx dx from 0 to 2 log 2 minus p naught x. Okay, so now if you just substitute the values, what was the demand function? The demand function looked something like, okay, it was e raised to the power minus x by 2 dx is alright, and from 0 to 2 log 2. So we'll put the minus part later on. If you simplify this, you're gonna get finally minus 2. I'll just write down the value directly. So you simplify this further again and you will be left with 1. Alright, verify if this is right as well. Okay, solve it for yourself. It is a very simple integration. Then after that, we see the expenditure which was p naught x is 0.5 was our price. P naught x is what we are going for. Into 2 log 2 was our x. So we are left with log 2. So it is nothing but 1 minus C consumer surplus 1 minus log 2. You are given a calculator, a scientific calculator inside of the exam as well, or you shouldn't have written log. You should have written ln from the beginning only, because we're taking the with respect to e, right? So it is a natural log, no? So you should keep that in mind. Okay, that is a mistake that I have made that you should not make in the exam. When we are taking base E, always just keep it simple, because we are actually trying to find values also this time. Otherwise it would have been fine. Okay, so 1 minus ln2, it is given as 1 minus 0.693, so 0.307, or to how many digits? To 2 digits. So you can just write 0.30 or 0.31, both should be acceptable. Alright, let us move on. 47th question says that the linear system of equations has no solution for k if, alright, in integers. Guys, you should know all of these properties. Linear algebra, as I have said, I've told you in the weightage video as well, it is the most important topic under maths. So when does the when do two lines have no solution? If you just think about it, if we just draw two lines, when will they have no solution? You know, the unique solution is two lines if they are crossing at any angle, right? If they intersect, they have a unique solution. They are intersecting at a single point. That single point is the unique solution. If the two lines are overlapping completely, then that is called infinite solutions. At every single point they are meeting, infinite solution. So just think about it. At what point should there be no solution at all? It should be when the two lines have the same slope, but they are not overlapped. They are two parallel lines. They will never meet, right? Like, that is the only practical way to think about it, no? So that means mathematically you can write it as that a1 upon a2 is equal to b1 upon b2, but it is not equal to c1 upon c2. The constant values are not the same even though the variable values are, alright? That is what this means mathematically. So you can just write down you just have to substitute the values. Just take this part first and then you can take this part, or whatever is simpler. So 1 upon 1 is equal to 1 upon k square minus 8. This means k square minus 8 is equal to 1. This means k square is equal to 9. This means k is equal to plus minus 3. Okay, this means k is equal to plus minus 3. Now on the next page we are going to take the next condition. 1 upon 1 is not equal to 3 upon k. This means k is not equal to 3. This means k, the only possible value left for k to have is minus 3, which is also your answer. Very simple, move on. Okay, read the 48th. A manufacturer producing pens has the following information regarding the cost of producing pens. You have a table, you have output levels, and at the output levels you have matching total cost functions, or just the total costs. If the total cost function is in the form of this, where a, b and c are constants, then the value of tcq at q is equal to 4 is, this is a waste of time. Even if I try and solve this, you should be able to solve this very easily. All you have to do is just substitute the values of q one by one and put tc on the left hand side, and then do for 2 and 3 as well. 3 equations, 3 variables, you'll find a, b and c, and after that just use that to find tc at q is equal to 4. That is all you have to do. I just write it down really quickly, just for the heck of it, otherwise I have no mood to even solve this. Okay, so at q is equal to 1, a plus b plus c is equal to 4. Obviously just substitute in the values, just keep doing that. I don't even know the purpose of this question. It is a fairly easy question, so obviously some questions have to be easy, otherwise no one will score any marks. We are all beginners here, right? So these are the values you solve now. Just solve from these equations and just find a, b and c. Okay, you should be able to do that very easily. So in the end you'll find out that a is 5, b is minus 6, and c is also 5. Now just form the equation. The equation is going to look like, what was it? Just replace in the values, that is all. 5q square minus 6q plus 5 is equal to tc. Now at tc, now just substitute the values as 4. So 5 into 16, 80, minus 6 into 4, 24, plus 5, final answer 61. Very simple. Let us move on. The 49th question says that consider the information in the table. Percentage, we have to find percentage change in working age population from 2010 to 2020. Okay, percentage change in working age population. All right, so we are given with the unemployment rate, number of unemployed, labor force participation rate for both the years 2010 and 2020. So guys, first of all, my advice to all of you is that before you start your logical intuition, before that, just shut your brain down for a second and write down the formula. Okay, so the two most important formula, you already know it, and the formula for the information that you are already given with, unemployment rate and labor force participation rate. What is the formula for both of them? Unemployment rate is equal to unemployed upon labor force. Okay, and the second formula that we're going to use is labor force participation rate is equal to the labor force upon working age population. Okay, so these are the two formulae that we are going to use, and now you can start using your logic. How are you going to do that exactly? Since you have the labor force participation rate and you have the unemployment rate, but you need another table if you want to solve this. As you can see clearly that you need a variable that we are not given with, which is the labor force. So let us try to find that. Labor force from the formula 1 is equal to, we take this here and we bring this down here, is equal to unemployed divided by unemployment rate. Alright, so do that for both the years. For 2010, you can say that the labor force is 30 upon 15. Okay, 30 upon 15 into 100 obviously. So this is going to give you 200. This is for 2010, labor force of 2010. For 2020, do the same. 50 divided by 20, so it will be, this is LF10, LF20, sorry, LF20 is 250. So now you have the labor force as well. Now LFPR, from LFPR you can find the working age population. Similarly, do the same thing again we did earlier. Take this here, take this here. So working age population is equal to the labor force divided by labor force participation rate. Very simple question, no? A lot of students have actually asked me this question as a doubt. So that is only because y'all, instead of writing down the formula first, you just try to use your logic with the given information. That is not what you're supposed to do, okay? You have to write down the formula first. So the labor force was 200 and the LFPR is given as 70 for 2010 multiplied by 100. Similarly, you do the same thing for 20, 250 divided by 80 into 100. So the values, I'll just write down the values. You'll have a calculator there, you can do that very easily. It will be 285.71 because up to 2 decimals, right? Yes, 2 decimals. So similarly, WAP 20 will give you 312.50. Now just find out the change, percentage change. There's nothing else. So that is, what is this? That is new minus old upon old into 100. So 312.50 minus 285.71 upon 285.71 into 100. Just calculate that, make sure that what we're doing is right. So you'll, final answer you'll get is 3.9.38, something like this. Alright, that should be your answer. So it wasn't very difficult, just a bunch of calculation involved. Don't make a silly mistake there, alright? I hope I have not made one. Let us move on. Okay, now read the 50th question. It says that consider the following information. Consumption is given as this, where YD is disposable income. Disposable income is what, by the way? It is income after taxes. Then you have the autonomous investment as 100, government expenditure, income tax rate. Rate of what? It is 20% of income. So 0.2y. Equilibrium level of consumption in the economy is very simple. You just plug in the values directly. Nothing much to do here. C is given as 250 plus y minus t into 0.25 or 1 by 4. So 250 plus, that was 0.2y, right? So 0.8y upon 4, 0.2y. That is C. So now just plug in 250 plus 0.2y plus 100 plus 50. This will give you income. 0.8y is equal to 400. So y is equal to 400 upon 8 into 10. This is 550. 500 is your y. Alright, 500 is your income. Just take that to a new page. You want to find consumption, no? 250 plus 2 by 10 into 500. That is 10. That is 100. 350 is your consumption. Very easy. Nothing much to explain. Let us move on. Okay, so let us read the 51st question, which says that an individual owns a mobile phone valued at 40,000. Current wealth of individual is 2 lakh, including the value of the mobile. There is a 20% chance of mobile phone theft, and an actuarially fair insurance policy is available to insure the loss of the mobile phone against a theft. The individual's von Neumann Morgenstern utility of wealth function is given by root W, where W is the wealth. The maximum willingness to pay for such an actuarially fair insurance policy is what? Alright, so let us just go step by step again as we do. So let us first just write down the data that we are already given with, that the wealth is given as 2 lakh. The value of loss or value of phone is given as, you can just write it as L, which is the potential loss, right? Because that is what can be stolen, right? There is a 20% chance. The probability of loss is 0.2 or 20%. Okay, utility function is obviously just given as root w. All right. Okay, and when we are talking about an actuarially fair policy, where is it written? Yes, when we are talking about this, we are just saying that the premium in such a case will be equal to the probability of loss multiplied by the actual whatever is the amount of loss. So 0.2 into 40,000, right? So that is equal to 8,000. That is the actuarial level of the premium, but that is not what we are looking for right now. We'll go step by step and you'll understand on the way itself. First of all, we are going to be finding the expected utility. This is just a normal expectation function that you use in stats as well. You take the function and multiply it with the probability of it happening, right? So the function is given as obviously root w. So first of all, what is the probability of no theft? It is 1. Probability of no theft, it is 1 minus 0.2, right? 0.2 is the probability of theft, so it is equal to 0.8. okay, so 0.8 multiplied by the function when there is no theft, so there is no loss, the wealth is intact, root of 2 lakh, plus when there is a loss, so basically 2 lakh minus 40,000, right? So that is root of 1 lakh 60,000. Okay, this is just your expected utility. This is the basically the function that we use. You already know this. Just calculate this. You will get 437.77. okay, that is what you should get. Please check this as well. Okay, so what is happening here really, if you really think about it, is that we can say that the person in question is kind of risk averse. Okay, what that really means is that, let us say that the person is worried about his phone getting stolen, because there is a very small chance, it is 0.2, okay, but there is still a probability that his phone might get stolen, right? So if there is a chance of that happening, he doesn't want to deal with all of that. Okay, so what he is saying is that he will pay the premium only if the premium is the utility that he gets after paying the premium is equal to the utility when he is not paying the premium. Because when he is not paying the premium, his utility is this, because there is still a much bigger chance that the phone does not get stolen, right? So he's saying that he will pay the premium only if the utility after paying it remains the same. If the premium is so high, if it is so high that his utility after paying the premium gets lowered even below this point, then he will say that I don't want to pay the premium only, I will take the risk of my phone being stolen. Okay, so that is the logic behind it. Now we can just take the utility function directly, which was root w, right? And now it is w minus p, which is the insurance premium. This is the expected utility after he pays the premium, because now there is no probability of his phone getting stolen at all. There is just a deduction of the premium. So this should be equal to 437.77. This is the utility, okay, after paying premium. So it is 2 lakh, wealth was 2 lakh minus some p, which is the premium, is equal to 437.77. Now just solve for p, that is all that you have to do. Square on both sides, then you'll get two values, and finally you'll get p as something like 8357.43, something like that. So you can either round that off to 56 or 58. Both answers are acceptable to JAM. Okay, so that was what you had to do. And another step, if they had asked you the difference between the actuarial fair insurance amount and the maximum willingness to pay, then you could have just said that it is this amount, 8357 minus 8,000. Alright, so that was an extra step that they could have asked, but they did not. Here the answer is just 8, 3, 5, 7. Okay, let us move on. Alright, now read the 52nd, which says that consider the following AK model. Production function is given by this. Y is output, so. Suppose there is zero technological progress in the economy and A is this. In the economy, savings rate is given, depreciation is given, population growth rate is given, size of labor force is given. Based on the EK model, the steady state growth rate of output per capita in the economy in integers. All right, now first of all, write down all of the data that you already have. It is given as A is 0.5 and savings rate is given to you 0.6. Depreciation is given to you, delta is 0.05, n is given to you as 0. All right, then just write down the steady state formula. G is equal to SA minus delta plus n. Okay, then just calculate it. It is going to be 0.6 into 0.5 minus 0.05. And your answer is going to be 0.25, which is 25%. Let us move on. Alright, now let us read the 53rd question, which says that a regression equation y is given and data is given of y and x. Coefficient of determination is asked. Very direct question. Just use the formula, just use the standard properties. What is coefficient of determination? It is written as SSR upon SST. How do you calculate each of these? Just start using the formula. Draw the table if you want. I'll take it to a new page. Okay, now just substitute the values of x into this regression equation and you will find y hat. First of all, we are going to need that for the formula as well. Okay, so first of all, basically you can just write down the formula itself. What is SSR and SST? SSR you already know, it is just the explained variation. This is the total variation. 1 minus this would be the coefficient of non-determination, which is unexplained variation divided by total variation, right? So you should know all of these properties. What is the formula? You should also know the formula. It is nothing but summation y hat minus y bar square divided by summation yi minus mean of y whole squared, right? So now let us try and find all of these values really quickly. What would be y hat? Just keep substituting the values of x into this equation. 2, so that it would be 1.5 first of all, and calculate so on. So now quickly what you have to do is just find out y bar, which is the mean of y, add these values up and divide by number of terms, which is 4 to 7, 16, 30. 30 divided by 4, 7.5. That is your y bar. So yi minus y bar and y hat minus y bar. Okay, quickly calculate all of these values yourself and then match with the values that I'm going to write. Okay, so guys, I have calculated the values, and the thing is that if you are not well versed with the calculations right now, if you are just starting out, you should calculate in two different columns. First of all, y minus y bar, alright, and then you can draw another one for the squared values of it. So I have just directly calculated these values. Okay, so that is what you can do. Obviously in the formula, as you can see that we are adding up the squared values of y bar minus y hat minus y bar and yi minus y bar, right? So we need the squared values. So now that we have both of these, we can just substitute that into y bar was 80 upon 81, and obviously this is nothing but 0.99 or something like that is the final answer. Alright, let us move on. Okay guys, let us read the 54th question. A very easy question. We are given with the consumer's utility function. Alright, two goods x1 and x2. The budget is 73. Prices are given. Then just the value of the sum of the two goods. Alright, that is all we have to find. So let us begin. Just start with writing the budget. The equation would be 2x1 plus x2 is equal to 73. So already we have the first equation. The second one, we just have to use the MRS, or you can also use the Lagrange, but I'll just use the MRS. Okay, that will be quicker, I think. So MRS is equal to MUX upon MUY. So you can write 1 by 4, then 2x1 minus, this will go in the denominator, 2x1 minus 1, power will become 0.75 because it is minus 0.75, because 0.25 minus 1. In the numerator will remain x2 minus 4. Okay, similarly the same thing will happen with the other one, the other function in MUI. So 3 by 4 will come down, in the denominator will be x2 minus 4, power will be 0.25. In the numerator, this was x2, sorry, this was x1. In the numerator will be 2x1 minus 2, 2x1 minus minus 1, power 0.25. This is not x square, this is x2. So this is equal to what? 4 will cancel out, this will go, so that will just become x2 minus 4 upon 2x1 minus 1 multiplied by 1 by 3. And another very important thing that I missed earlier was 2 here, because this 2 will go in the numerator when we are differentiating, right? So we have 2 by 3, we have this, alright, and this is equal to what? At equilibrium, MRS is equal to the price ratio. So the price of 1 is given as 2, so this is 2 by 1. So this cancel out. x2 minus 4 is equal to 3 into, so just multiply it, 6 x1. The notations, that is why when they when they just give you x1 and x2, most of the times what I just do is take x1 as x and take x2 as y, because the writing the notations over and over is like a headache to me. So you can do that instead. Okay, so 6x1 minus 3, all right, so take x1 to the other side, or yeah, do that. X2 minus 6x1 is equal to 1. That is your second equation. Now write the second equation below the first one. X2 minus 6x1 is equal to 1. This was the equation. Change the signs, plus minus, x2 gets cancelled, you get 8x1 is equal to 72, x1 is equal to 9. Similarly, find x2. X2 is going to be 73 minus 18, so 55. Now just sum it up, that is your answer, 64. Very easy question, just the notations are a headache, otherwise the calculation is not that of a big deal, right? Okay, let us move on. So let us read the 55th question, which says that an industry has 6 firms in Kurno competition. 6 firms has 0 fixed costs and constant marginal cost equal to 20. Product is homogeneous, inverse demand function is given by this. So P is the market price, Q is the total industry output of the 6 firms combined, given here. Market price under Cournot-Nash equilibrium is equal to. Alright. So first of all, just write down the formula that you already know, because it is just a very direct question. So when we are talking about, first of all, when we are talking about an individual firm, alright, the formula for it is A minus C upon N plus 1, right? For example, when we are just talking about two firms in duopoly, you already know that it is A by C upon 3. The reason this 3 is here is because N is 2. So 2 plus 1 is 3, because the number of firms there is 2. So that is not a general formula though. Even if there are more number of firms, you cannot use that, right? Here we have 6 firms, so it will be divided by 7. Now if you write the total output, the formula for it, you just multiply the same thing. You just write the same thing first of all, and then you just multiply it with an extra n in the numerator, right? So now let us try to solve for the individual output, which is A is given as 230 in the inverse demand function itself. Cost is given as 20 divided by 7, as we already talked about. 210 upon 7 is 30. 30 is the individual output, and the market output is multiply that with the number of firms, 180. Okay, and price is nothing but 230 minus the industry output, which is 180, that is equal to 50. Very easy, very direct question. Just these two formulas were required. That is all. In many numericals, you just get rewarded for remembering the formulae. Okay, so you don't have to necessarily depend on heavy calculation and all of that. There will be most of the numericals you will see that they just require conceptual understanding, just like the theoretical parts. Okay, so it is not that deep. So let us move on. Okay, so the 56th question says that let the value of a random sample drawn from normal distribution with mean 5 and unknown standard deviation be this. The maximum likelihood estimator of sigma square. Okay, so again, as I said, they are rewarding you for knowing just a basic formula of the normal distribution. That is why I have made the table for you guys in my notes, where the MLE of every single function is there, right? So it is a very basic formula, just xi minus x bar whole squared upon n is equal to MLE of sigma square. Okay, so this is the MLE. So now just make the table, just do the calculations. That is the easy part. Alright, so this is the table. You can look at the data yourself. These are all the x's that are given already, minus the mean is given as 5, and then what you do is you square them up and you add the total value. You use that total value, which is 0.68, you divide it by n, which is number of terms, 1 2 3 4 5 6, and the final answer is given to you as 0.11 up to 2 decimal places. So that is going to be enough. Just when you are doing the probability distribution, there are a lot of formulae in the types of distributions. Okay, so that is why I have made them cheat sheet for y'all in the notes, so you can use that, and you should remember most of these, as many as you can, at least for the most important kinds of distributions. Okay, uniform, normal, binomial, these are asked very often. All right, let us move on. The 57th one says that an economy produces a consumption good and also has a research sector which produces new ideas. Time is discrete and indexed by t is equal to this. The production function for consumption good is here, where at time t, yt is the amount of consumption good produced, at is stock of existing knowledge, lyt is the amount of labor devoted to production, which is known as, okay, this is important. It is known that a naught is equal to 1. Production function for new ideas is given here, the where LAT is the amount of labor devoted to production of new ideas at time t. Suppose that for all t, LAT is equal to 10, LYT is equal to 90, then growth rate of consumption good YT at t is equal to 50. Alright. So first of all, let us write down all of the important information and let us begin solving it. Alright. You are given for the consumption good, the production function is given as AT LYT, right? Okay, then for knowledge, the idea production function is AT plus 1 minus AT is equal to 1 by 250 AT LAT. You have to find also A naught is equal to 1, and what else is given? LAT. LYT is 90. We have to find YT, growth rate of YT. Okay. Alright, so let us try and use some equations, and let us try to do some manipulation in the equation itself to get closer to the answer. If we use this one, okay, AT plus 1 minus AT is equal to AT is given on both sides. Okay. Again, as I said, there would be multiple ways to solve this one as well. A very good way to solve it is if we divide on both sides with AT. What you will get is AT plus 1 minus AT divided by AT. So what this really is, if you really think about it, it is just the growth rate of AT, of A. Okay, it is the growth rate, it is basically A in period 2 minus in period 1 divided by period 1. That is what the growth rate is, right? That is the definition of it. And here we just have LAT divided by 250. So you can write GA is equal to LAT divided by 250. Now LAT is given as 10. So 10 upon 250. It is 0.04. Okay. Now a very interesting thing that is given in the question itself is that for all t, LAT is 10 and LYT is 90. So these two values are constant for all t. So if we talk about this function, you can say that the growth of y is going to be equal to the growth of a. Why? Because LYT is just a constant value, right? So that is why this is a very important result that we have gotten from the question itself, since they have mentioned this very explicitly. So you can just say that gy, okay, so that is what we just had to find. So gy is equal to ga, that is equal to just 0.04 or 4%. Alright, so t does not concern us, since we have found ga as a constant as well, not in terms of t. So that is a very short way to do it. Obviously there are other ways to go about it. For example, you can just use this value and use a bunch of substitution to then eventually reach to the answer as well. But this was a very short method. Okay, so a very short and effective method. So let us move ahead. Alright, so the 58th question, which says that consider a closed economy ISLM model, goods and money market equations are given here, money supply and y, where y is this, the t is given here, I is this, government expended 300, constant money supply at 950, the value of t at equilibrium y, that is what we have to find. Okay, let us start. Firstly, if you look at the y equation, you have disposable income here, you know yd is nothing but y minus t, right? So integrate t here. First of all, y is 5 minus 0.2y, this will give you 0.8y minus 5. Okay, so that was disposable income. So now put all the values in the y equation. First of all, what you are going to get is 90 plus 0. That will be multiplied 0.64y minus 4 minus 100i plus g is 300. Okay, so this is our equation 1. Let us move to a new page. Before that, we can simplify this further. 0.36y is equal to 386 minus 100i. Alright, we'll keep it at that. If we require any further calculation, we'll do that later. Now your second equation is already given to you. Look at this, you are given this value. So what else do you want? 950 is equal to 750. You have two equations in terms of y and I, just solve them and get the answer. Plus 0.2y, easy question, right? So you can do the calculation part yourself also. Alright, so I'll just explain what I've just done. So the two equations we have equated, y we have already found from the money equation, and from the goods market you had this. So from here we what I just did is I just took this on the right hand side and then we equate the two. So I cut the two zeros, I multiplied 36 on this side, I got this, and then from here we just calculate this. All right, so we have the interest rate. Now calculate the income. You will get it as 1059.5, something like that. All right, so for how many decimal to the nearest integer. Okay, we don't even have to care about much about decimals. Sure, we keep the decimals in the calculation so that it keeps us closer to the nearest integer, right? So now just calculate t. T is already, I'll just do it on the main page itself because we already had t, right? So t is what? This is t. 5 plus 2 by 10 multiplied by 1059.5. Your answer is going to look like something like 217. Okay, let us move on. Okay, so now let us look at the 59th question, which says that the supply curve is given as price is this function where p is the market price, x is the quantity. Then the change in producer surplus due to an increase in market price from 30 to 70. Okay. So we are just working around with the producer surplus. There will be a change in price and we just have to find the difference in the producer surplus, right? So first of all, let us try and understand graphically what we are trying to do. Okay, I'll just quickly draw a graph where you guys can see here. Alright, so let us just say that this is, or something like this is the supply curve. Okay, so what we are saying is that first of all the price is something like this, it is 30. Okay, so at this point you should know that if you are just given a function and know like not a lot of details, what you can do is that you can integrate the supply curve from 0 to this quantity, whatever the quantity is at x. Okay, and then when you integrate this curve you get this shaded region. Now if you just multiply price and quantity you will get this square. So what is the formula for producer surplus? It is the area above the supply curve and below the price, right? So this area basically. So all you have to do is subtract the shaded region from this square, which is price into quantity. Simple. So that is what we do to find the producer surplus. Now we are saying that the price has increased to 70. So now let us say this is price at 70. So we just have to repeat the exact same process with just different values, same function. We just change the basically the area from what we are integrating from 0 to x. So we do it from 0 to x bar, or whatever you want to call it, x dash. Okay, we'll find those values and we repeat the same process. Okay, price into quantity will give us the square and we subtract this area. When we have both of the producer surplus values, we are going to find their difference. So that is just the process. I just want to explain it graphically before we started. So just write down the production function, or basically the supply curve. So just write down the production function. It is given as 0.1 x square plus x plus 10 is equal to p. So just, you know what, I'll just multiply it by 10 here only. So basically it's going to be x square plus 10x plus 100 is equal to, it was 30, so it will be 300 x square plus 10x minus 200 is equal to 0. Alright, so from here you can find the value of x for the first equation, which will be something like x square plus 20x minus 10x minus 200 is equal to 0. x plus 20 minus 10 x plus 20 x is equal to 10 and minus 20. You know that the quantity produced or the quantity supplied cannot be negative, so we are going to consider the positive value. X is 10 in our first case. Now similarly solve for the second value also. I'll take it to a new page. Solve for the second value, which was at 70, right? So x square plus 10x plus 100 is equal to 700. We multiplied by 10. So bring it here again, x square plus 10x plus minus 600 is equal to 0. X square plus 30x minus 20x minus 600 is equal to 0. X plus 30 minus 20 x plus 30 is equal to 0. X is equal to 20 comma minus 30. Again we just consider the positive value, so x is equal to 20. Alright, so we have the two values for x and x dash. So what now, what next? As I said, we are considering two things. First of all, these squares and the area below it. So we are going to integrate the function from first of all 0 to 10 and then from 0 to 20. This is going to give us the two shaded regions. Then we'll find these two squares and we'll subtract the shaded regions. So we'll do that one by one. Okay, we don't have to rush into it so as to not make a stupid mistake. All right, so first of all we'll integrate for the first or the smaller shaded region and the square. So the function we are integrating is 0.1 x square plus x plus 10x dx from 0 to 10. This will give us 0.1 x cube by 3 plus x square by 2 plus 10x. Just basic integration, just do it. from 0 to 10. So just solve for it. What you'll get is 10, basically 100 upon 3 plus 100 upon 2, so 50 plus 100. So the 0 part will be 0 obviously, so plus 100. So this will look like 183.33. This is the shaded region. Now just find PQ as well. P is 30 multiplied by 10, which so 300. So the producer surplus 1 is, use your calculators and verify this. Okay, so this is our producer surplus 1. Now let us do this exact same thing for the second one. So the integrated function will remain the same. Obviously it's going to be 0.1 x cube upon 3 plus x square upon 2 plus 10x. This time we are going to integrate from 0 to 20. So it'll be, and then the PQ is 70 into 20, so 1400. So producer surplus 2 is equal to 733.33. So now just find the difference. Producer surplus 2 minus producer surplus 1 is 733.33 minus 116.67. 616.67. Right, so that is going to be your answer. You can round off to the nearest integer. You can just write 617 or 616. Both should be acceptable as far as I know, or as far as I think. So basically the logical intuition was more important than the actual calculation part. If you can understand that, then this is like this is absolutely nothing for you. You'll have a scientific calculator there, you'll have a mouse, you'll have everything. You just have to write down the function and the calculation will be done in 1 or 2 minutes max, right? The main part was to understand graphically what was going on. Okay, this is what we calculated. This was what was this part 183. Okay, so what we are doing is the graphical intuition. That is what is most important. Is I'll just give you a quick recap. This was the supply curve, this was our price, this was our quantity. If I integrate the supply curve from 0 to x, it'll give you this region, area below the supply curve. What you want as producer surplus is the area above the supply curve and below the price, which is this part, right? So to find this, you subtract the shaded region below it from this square. And what is that square? It is PQ, 30 multiplied by 10. The difference was this. Okay, similarly when we took to the next function, when we took to the bigger function, you saw that this shaded region was how much? It was 6.66. That was what we were trying to find. The whole square was 1400, right? Yes, it was 1400. The difference of this part was 733.33. Similarly, the last thing that we found was, this was the first producer surplus, this was the second producer surplus, the whole thing. We wanted to find the difference between the two, which was this part. That was 616 or 617. Okay, that is the logical intuition behind it. You should know that, and that is going to help you a lot in the actual exam, right? Let us move on now. Alright, boys and girls, final question of the day, which is the question number 60 of the JAM 2024 paper. A very easy question, just read it once. There are two goods, X and Y. There are two consumer, A and B, in a pure exchange economy. A and B have co-opted utility functions of the form this and this. So initially A isn't out with this one. Okay. Unit price of Y is normalized to 1. Then the equilibrium unit price for good X is. We are trying to find this is the price of good X. Okay, so normally what you should do, that if you are trying to find X, like X1 star, X2 star and Y1 star, Y, and so on and so forth, you usually go on and draw the Edgeworth box. And in this case, obviously, as you can see, the total endowments are something like 140, right? For good Y it is 40 and for good X it is 100. So obviously if you draw a 45-degree line, it is not going to reach the midpoint of the box because the midpoint is 50, right? So that is why we will draw the 45-degree line somewhere at let's say the 40-point mark on both sides. Okay, that is where it should cut it, something like this. All right, and if you have two Cobb-Douglas functions, it would look something like this, right? So something like that. So neither of those are on the midpoint. So something like that is the graphical idea. But the point is that I would do that normally. Right now, what we just have to find is the equilibrium unit price for Godex, and that is a very, very common question that we have seen in the JAM paper. That just find the price of Godex or the price ratio of Godex and Y, right? That is a very common question. So that is why you should be well versed in the general equilibrium part. If you are doing it properly, then this is a question that you should absolutely be able to solve at this point. Okay, so let us really quickly see and what we can do with the data that we have. We have okay, so we just have the utility function, right? So it is a Cobb-Douglas function. You can just write x1 star is equal to what? 0.4 upon 0.4 plus 0.6 multiplied by m upon p1. We do not have p1. Let us assume, I'll write it here, assume px is equal to p or p1 is equal to p. So I'll just remove the 1 from here because p2 or py is given as 1, or we have assumed it to be 1. So it'll be that is 0.4 m by p. Okay, 0.4 m by p. Similarly, x2 star is 0.3 upon 0.3 plus 0.7 m by p. Alright, so that will be 0.3 m by p. So for obviously, so we'll just first of all let us just try to find m in terms of p. So you obviously know that we are given 50 units of x1, a is endowed with 50 units of x, and similarly b is also endowed with 50 units of x. So just write down what the budget equation should look like. X1 is 50, so price of x is p plus 20 multiplied by 1, price of y is 1, is equal to m, right? Similarly, m1 50p plus 21 is equal to m2 as well. So both of them are equal, which is 50p plus 20. So we can just use that in this equation because I'll just write that on the next page as well, that x1 star plus x2 star is equal to 100. We already know that that is the total endowment of x of good x. So that is why 0.7, what is it, m. So m is 50p plus 20 divided by p is equal to 100. 7 by 10, right? 35p plus 14 is equal to 100p. So 65p is equal to 14, p is equal to 14 by 65. Your answer is going to look something like, just calculate that and tell me if my answer is right or wrong. It should look like 0.215. So just 0.21, we'll just leave it at that. Okay, so 0.21, or you can write 0.22 as well. I think both of them should be acceptable. Okay, so that was a very simple question. If we just look at what we did, first of all, we found x1 and x2 in terms of m and p. We found m in m1 and m2 in terms of p, and then we just we already know that the total endowment was 100, so we added them up, and we tried to form a complete equation on LHS and RHS in terms of p, a complete equation, so that just we could just find p, because already p2 was given to us as 1, right? That was the assumption. Alright guys, so that was the end of the 2024 JAM paper, and it is very appreciable if you were watching till the very end. If you watched the whole video, then that definitely would have helped you a lot. And thank you for watching, and thank you for all the lovely comments and messages that you guys have been leaving me. It really fuels me to work harder for you guys, and that I will do. That is my promise. So you guys should also work just as hard and even harder than me if possible. All right. Best of luck and see you all soon.